There we go. That's Admiral.
Oh, okay. Oh, there's a lot. All right.
Okay, we should be good to go.
Good to go.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everyone. It's Planning Board meeting, August 5th. We're starting the meeting, and Sarah, everybody up to date on taxes?
Yes.
And what about the minutes? Did the board have a chance to review the minutes?
Yes, received everybody's corrections and
Oh,
they're
where's
ready
my
for
little
approval.
card go? Dan, okay.
Okay by me, yes.
George, Kevin,
Yes. Okay. Okay by Kevin.
okay. Would somebody motion for approval of the
Motion
minutes?
to approve the minutes.
My second. Dan, in favor?
Yes.
George? George, in favor?
I think that was a yes. George, you're muted.
George, you in favor of the minutes?
Yes.
And Kevin?
Yes.
And Caesar is yes. Okay, let me go over the agenda. Number one will be 2020-16. Sturbesky, 18 Meadowbrook Road, sorry. 2020-14. Stewood, 29 North Eckerd. Number three is 2020-06. Radamakers, 2 Heritage Hill Road. Number 4, Nimchek, 7-9 South Cotton Street. Number 5, Sykes, 3 Clifton Place. Number 6, Burley, 26 Lewis Road. Number 7, Fitzpatrick, 31 Matheson Park. Number 8, 2020-21, Robinson, 202 Hermits Road. Number 9, 2020-20, Kimber, 9 Stearns Ridge. 2020-19, Valences, 45 Station Road. 2020-18, Barth, 11 Beechwood Road. All right, starting with number 1, 2020-16, Staberski and Son, 18 Meadowbrook Road. Do we have an applicant? Doug?
Hold on one moment. Yeah, here we go. Move to panels.
Sarah, he's here, right?
Yes, he's here.
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah,
There you
I'm sorry. I have a weak internet right now. Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
go. Yep.
Yes.
We hear you, we don't see you.
Okay. I don't know why you don't see me, but I am here. There we go. How's that?
I
Yeah.
can see your Adam's apple. Oh, there you go.
Okay, Douglas McClure for the Staberskys at 18 Meadowbrook. We left off last meeting with some issues to be addressed. We've addressed all those issues that Han raised and the landscape architect raised. One of the larger issues was the geothermal system. For a variety of reasons, the client has decided to abandon the geothermal part of the project. I don't know if you want me to go through the drawings, but it seems that the comments that came from Han today, all the issues were addressed other than the variance issues. I've applied for the Zoning Board of Appeals to address those issues and would like approval to move forward with that.
Okay, very good. I want to compliment you on right up front in your cover letter. You ticked off every every comment of concern, and you clearly identified your resolution of each identified. That's rare. A lot of applicants, you got to hunt for the answers, and we did not have, I did not have to do that. with you.
99 and a half.
All right.
Thank
Does
you.
anybody have any questions here? We'll start with Dan. Any questions?
I have no questions. Like I said, everything was addressed. that we
George,
were concerned.
No, no questions.
Kevin?
No, thank you.
I have no questions. Any members of the public have any questions on 18 Meadowbrook Road? Sarah?
No.
Mary Ann, do we have a resolution?
Yeah. Whereas on January 9th, 2019, Jacob Styberski and Catherine Sun received site development plan approval to build an addition and convert the second floor half story of their house at 18 Meadowbrook Road to a full second floor. And whereas in June 2020, applicants applied to revise the approved site plan to modify the roof construction, extend the garage gable, and change the location of windows and doors. And whereas the modifications require variances for coverage in the front yard setback from the zoning board of appeals, Con Engineering reviewed the plans, and in a memorandum dated June 26, 2020, listed a number of items, all of which were addressed in a subsequent submission. The planning board held a public hearing on the application on July 1st and August 5th. The comments of the village's landscape consultant were addressed to her satisfaction. The proposed improvements would not impact the view of the Hudson River from neighboring properties, and whereas the action's a type 2 action under SEQA and therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Styberski Residence with the sheets enumerated, prepared by McSee Architecture, subject to receiving variances from the zoning board of appeals for coverage and for incursions into the front yard setback. Remember, when you vote on this, you should also vote to authorize Sarah to sign for you.
Okay. Okay, let's start with Dan.
I propose that we accept the resolution as.
Well,
mentioned.
first we have to do a motion. Sorry. Does someone make a motion to accept the resolution?
Yeah, I propose we accept the motion as.
Okay, I second, and you vote
and I
all
would
in
like to,
favor.
Authorize Sarah to. designate
Okay.
my signature.
I vote yes and authorize Sarah to sign. George,
Yes, and please, Sarah, sign.
Kevin,
Yes, and I authorize Sarah to sign on my behalf.
okay, we're done with this application and we're moving on to number 2 on the hit parade.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank
Doug,
you.
good job. Number 2 is 2020-14, Seward, 29 North Eckerd Street. We have an applicant.
Yes.
Kevin, your video went out. There you go.
I'm here. I was just looking at something on another screen related to
You're not allowed to do that. We're 100% attention here.
You know, Caesar, you don't have a lot of members to face
Matt
off.
Behrens, you are unmuted.
Sarah, do we have an applicant for,
Joe, Matt Behrens, I can see him here, but his.
Matt, you're muted.
There you go.
Not sure if you guys can hear me.
Now, yeah.
We can hear you. Yes, I can.
I can't hear you. Sorry, I don't know what happened. I had it a second ago. I'm going to try to dial in. I apologize.
we can hear you.
I think he can't hear us.
Oh,
Everybody got this down, and then the damn power issues. It's all messed up again.
yeah.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
Give me a fucking minute.
You have not entered any numbers. Please re-enter your. Enter your participant ID followed by you have joined the meeting as an attendee and will be muted throughout the meeting.
Hi, I'm sorry, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep,
Yes.
All right, sorry about that.
well, we can hear you. You want to proceed? You just went on mute. Matt, if you can hear me, you're on mute.
I don't know what's going on with my audio here.
All right, Matt, you want to make a quick presentation, Matt?
So this
We
is,
hear you.
I think the only thing that was outstanding was the neighbor letter, which was submitted to allow access through the neighbor's yard.
We have the letter.
Okay, he wanted some kind of indemnity, which we tried to build into that letter. I think everything seems to be exactly what they were looking for. The access will be as minimally disruptive to the neighbor as possible, but he is okay with us accessing their side yard to get to the applicant's backyard for the purposes of building this deck.
Mary Ann, does the letter meet your legal standard for being okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody on the board have a comment? Dan,
It looks good, everything presented to us, the letter
George?
from the neighbor as well.
I'm fine with it.
Kevin? Kevin,
Kevin, you're
Unmute.
muted.
unmute, Kevin.
Has the neighbor corroborated or confirmed consent
Yeah, we got the letter and Mary Ann said the letter is fine.
from the neighbor? Okay.
Yes.
And a letter was submitted by the packet. Whether it's okay as between the neighbors, that's between them, but it does
Right.
reflect permission to use it.
But for our
Right.
purpose,
Care about.
Mary Ann,
Understood.
for our
I just-
purposes, it was okay.
I didn't hear that, Caesar. There's all kinds of echoing.
I think that's Matt. Mary Ann, I just said for our purposes, it's okay.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody in the public would like to comment? Sarah, anybody out there?
Nobody has their hand raised.
Okay. Mary Ann, do you have a resolution?
Yeah. Whereas in June 2020, Nick Seward applied for site development plan approval to construct a deck at the rear of his house at 29 North Becker, which is located in the View Preservation District. Whereas the improvements require variances for coverage and intrusions into the side yard setbacks from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Han Engineering reviewed the plans and in memoranda dated May 29th and June 26th listed a number of issues which were all addressed in a subsequent submission. The planning board held a public hearing on the application on June 3rd, July 1st, and August 5th. The comments of the village landscape consultants were addressed to her satisfaction. Proposed improvements would not impact the view of the Hudson River from neighboring properties. And whereas the action's a type 2 action under secret and therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore it be resolved that the planning board grants the application for site development plan approval of the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Seaward Residence. The sheets are enumerated, prepared by Matthew Barron's architect, subject to receiving variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals for coverage and insufficient side yards.
Okay, thank you, Mary Ann. Do we have a motion to accept the resolution?
I propose that we accept the resolution as proposed by Mary Ann.
Second? I
Second,
second. All in favor? Let's start on the right with Dan. The vote?
I approve and I authorize Sarah to sign for me.
My vote is yes, and I authorize Sarah. George?
approve and please have Sarah sign for me.
Kevin? Kevin, unmute.
Yes, and I authorize Sarah to sign on my behalf.
Okay, we're done. And by the way, Matt, we can actually see you now. And good luck.
I'm sorry, it was a rough night.
It's working perfectly and you're done.
All right, great. Thank you, guys. Have a
Okay,
great night.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Sign off. All right, we're going to number 3 on the agenda, 2020-06. Rademacher, 2 Heritage Hill Road.
There's nobody here for that application.
I saw Patty.
Yeah, there he is. Never mind. Sorry. There he is.
You're on mute, Pat.
How we like it.
Yeah.
Grizzly
There you go.
Adams.
You're on mute again.
Patty, you there?
Patty, we can see you, but we can't hear you if you're talking. That looks like a photograph, not live.
There you go. You're on mute. We can't hear you. There's no sound. No sound.
If you're on Zoom, you got to go to, did you turn on the mic for your iPad?
Why don't you go out and come back in again?
No.
You think this has to do because the power's so sketchy?
No.
No. Now it says connecting to audio. We should hear him. Now you're on mute. It indicates mute, so you've got it.
Are you sure your mic is on your iPad?
And he's not muted.
He just froze up.
It's on and went off.
He just froze up too. Patty, call in on your phone. We'll do it by voice.
Gonna be like this for a long time, I think.
Not a bad pose.
No. These meetings are gonna be like this for a long time.
Well, did the governor extend it?
Yeah, well, even if he doesn't, you can still, as long as there's like, let's say, one person at Village Hall, then where
Yep.
there's a place where the public can go, you can still meet like this for people who, don't feel like they want to be in a crowded meeting room, or even a not crowded meeting room.
Well, I don't want to be in a crowded meeting room.
No, I'm not either. I can't go to any meetings either. Not until there's a vaccine.
Here he comes. He's dialing in.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Or better.
Okay, I'm on a different computer.
We can see you and hear you.
Okay, are you going to need me to put any drawings up, which I am guessing no? So I'll stay on this computer and not try and move things over to different stuff. At the last time we were before you is when you sent us to the ZBA. We got the variances that we required. We've also been to the ARB and got that resolved. And I know there are 2 questions from Han pertaining to the dates on the drawings. And I just have to check that with the engineer. I think what happened is there might be difference in the dates on their drawings relative to which one looked like it was the last. And it sounds like we just have to make sure that Doug has the latest drawings that we submitted.
There were 2 other questions that we just wanted clarification on your tree replacement plan and tree protection plan. And
Right, I think that
just run through that verbally.
Yeah, that was, I think that was from,
Suzanne Nolan, yeah.
Yeah, Suzanne Nolan should have addressed that.
No, you had to address it. You had to show us that you had an acceptable.
Yeah, our
Just go
landscape.
through it.
Okay, so,
You don't have to show us, just tell us.
yeah, we're adding 10 trees to the property
Okay.
where we're taking down 2.
Right, Susan was very happy with that, and so am I. Go ahead. What about tree protection?
We've increased all the tree protection on everything, and the drawings were revised for that prior to the June meeting.
The only question on tree protection, there was no single document that had all the tree protection things. So is there going to be a construction manager to make sure all the moving parts in different?
Yes. Not only that, we've included a construction sequence that starts off with a joint meeting at the site with the village and with the contractor and the design coordinators and the engineer to make sure that they've identified the correct trees and that they're doing the erosion protection, sedimentation control, all exactly as it's supposed to be on the drawing. I do think that Hudson Engineering did up the caliber of their submission, and they did end up with everything on that sheet.
I have one last question. That's a steep hill where the retaining wall is going to be repaired.
Yeah.
William, are we okay with the reinforced siltation fences?
Yes.
It shouldn't be just a single fence. That's a steep hill and there's a pond at the foot of that.
Yeah, we're okay with the erosion control plan.
Okay,
Caesar,
All right.
I have two things.
go ahead.
One, to follow up on Suzanne's, Patty, and because the draft resolution is subject to compliance with Suzanne Nolan's comments. And she went through all the comments she made last time and found 4 of them were addressed and 2 of them, one of them not fully addressed and not addressed. So there were a couple things that were. And then the other thing is I haven't seen the variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. I guess Sarah hasn't gotten it yet. And so that I went online today to watch the minutes, to watch the tape of the meeting, and that's not on either. Were there any conditions to their granting the variance?
I do not believe so. Ed, did you remember any?
I don't go to zoning board meetings, Patty.
Okay. Yeah, they did not impose any requirements that we do anything special. It's that issue with the 80,000. We're over 80,000 square feet, so we have to get a variance because we're so much bigger than we're supposed to be in terms of lot area.
Well, that's the easy answer, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it easy. So,
Marianne?
Yep.
Marianne, we're okay?
Yeah. I really like to see that. I always check the ZBA resolution. So if there are any conditions, I make them a condition of our approval. It's still a condition.
Right.
It just makes it easier for the building department if it's all on one sheet. But
Right.
if when eventually I see the decision, I could just modify the planning board decision to add that condition. He's subject to it anyway. I just usually put it on the planning board decision. So all the conditions are on one document.
agreed.
Ed, you're okay with that, right?
Yeah.
No choice, I guess.
Well, if something comes up, we'll bring it back up at a meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Marianne, any questions from the planning board on this application?
Yeah, I just have one quick question. It sounds like there's a little bit confusion about the drawings and submittals and things like that. Is this a coordinated set of drawings for this?
Yes.
Ed?
There's one error and it has to get approved by Han before it can go to the next step in the building department. So the error is to be corrected, is to be sent to Han. Han's supposed to sign off on it, and then that's the set I work with.
Yeah.
Okay. My question is much more about in the past, there've been issues and it always gets back to the controversy about the drawing said this, but then it was supposed
Well,
to
it's
be.
not like he's going to move the garage or anything like that. It'd be little.
Well, I just
things.
want to make sure that the drawings that we have are are coordinated.
Yeah, and they're almost right as far as, you know how fussy I am about them being the same. There's just an indexing issue that Will caught and he'll correct it before he can go to the next step.
Okay.
All right.
One
I need a
other
letter
thing
from
I
Will,
should-
so send the corrections to Will.
Yeah, Sarah, on both of our applications, Binns and Kimber, you should also see Laura Wakefield. on your screen someplace, she's the architect on those projects.
So it's her fault?
No, it's my fault. I should have said that to start.
Yeah, that's
All
fine.
right, she
All right.
can hit
So
the
just
raise
go-
hand button.
Just get in touch with Will and get it right.
Yep.
I have a question for you. It just came into my head. You're not moving the garage. The garage is exactly where it was the whole time we were looking at this.
Absolutely. Well, we had it in a spot you didn't like. We moved it to where you preferred, and it has not changed from there.
Okay. All right, George, thank you for your comment. Dan and Kevin, anything?
No.
All right, Mary Ann, you have the resolution? Oh, anything from the
Yeah, for
public?
comments from the public.
Hold a second. Any public out there, Sarah?
Nobody has hit the raise hand button.
Okay. Mary Ann, you have a resolution?
Yeah, and whereas in February 2020, Charlotte Binns applied for site development plan approval to expand her single-family residence at 2 Heritage Hill Road, expand existing porches and decks on the house, construct a new detached 2-car garage, reconfigure the driveway, and make other improvements. Whereas the proposed improvements entail construction within 100 feet of Marshall's Pond, so require a freshwater wetlands permit. And whereas the original plans included an elaborate planting plan for the entire 2-acre property, but were revised to include only planting in the area of construction. And whereas the original plans required a variance for height, but were revised to lower the proposal, so a height variance was not required. And whereas the proposal required a variance for coverage, which was granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals on June 23rd, 2020. Was Han Engineering reviewed the plans and in memoranda dated February 4th, March 3rd, March 31st, May 4th, and June 1st, listed a number of issues, all of which were satisfactorily addressed in subsequent submissions. And whereas the planning board held a public hearing on the application on February 5th, March 4th, May 6th, and June 3rd, and August 5th. And whereas Han reviewed the freshwater wetlands permit application and in a memorandum dated July 31st, 2020, determined that all requirements for the permit are met. And whereas many, but not all of the comments of the village's landscape consultant in her monthly memos to the planning board were addressed to her satisfaction. And whereas the actions of type 2 action under SEQRE therefore requires no environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board grants a freshwater wetland permit as well as site development plan approval for the improvements reflected in the drawings entitled Binns 2 Heritage and a long list of sheets, all prepared by Gotham Design and Community Development, and the landscape plan prepared by Aspect 120, subject to complying with the items in Han's memorandum dated August 4th and Nolan Landscape Architects Review dated August 4th. And then I would just say to add, you know, once the thing is passed, it's certainly not his fault, but I'm a little uncomfortable not having seen the zoning board variance yet. So,
Yeah,
so keep that.
I have a question though, Marianne. I just listened to what you said, and it said the drawings prepared by Gotham Design. They actually are supposed to be prepared by, and
They're signed by Laura Wakefield, but the plans, what I have there is what's written on the plans, which is Gotham Design so you can identify them. These were the ones, you know, that they have to follow. Those were the ones that were submitted.
okay, I want to make sure that it's the responsibility of the architect that these plans are carried through.
Right, and Laura Wakefield's name is on those drawings.
She stamps them all.
No, but she's in the title block as well.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a motion to accept the resolution.
Motion to accept.
Second? We can hear a second? I second. All right, let's take a vote. Dan?
I accept the motion and authorize Sarah to
That's that
sign.
one off.
Caesar is voting yes and authorizing Sarah to sign. George?
Yes, and authorize Sarah to sign.
Kevin?
Yes, and I authorize Sarah to sign on my behalf.
Okay, Patrick, your 2 computers are on, so
Yeah, I know.
remember,
I'm going to
remember
turn
to
this one
sign
off.
off
Yeah, I'll
on both of them.
one. Yep.
All right, thank you very much and move along.
Thank you.
Number 4 on the agenda is Nemchek. Are we gonna do this, Ed?
Yeah, I talked to him. He probably wants to make a small presentation.
Okay, we'll move ahead. Number 4 is Nemchek. It's 7-9 South Continent Street.
Patty, shut that one off too?
John, I see you. I don't hear you.
Oh, I'm here. I'm just not speaking.
Okay. Well, you're on.
Okay. I don't think there's been any change since we were last here. We submitted a letter requesting conditional approval. I spoke to Ed about what the board's position was on that. And I guess we're in a position now where we're just waiting for ARB and zoning board approval. We've been submitted to both zoning board and we have submitted to ARB for the next meeting. So I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to address. There's no, the only 2 comments left on Han's memo are related to those 2 items.
Ed, is there any proper sequencing between the ZBA and the ARB?
No, he's basically on autopilot. He's got his application in for both. He'll go to the ARB. If there's any issues, he has time to come back here before he goes to zoning board. That's what we should have.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I guess we're done. We have any comment from the board?
No.
George, Kevin? Any public comment? Sarah?
No one's raising their hand.
Okay, John, we'll see you after the ARB.
Okay, thank you.
Moving to number 5, 2020-07, Sykes, 3 Clifton Place.
I wasn't able to get in touch with this gentleman, Caesar.
That's all right. I'm gonna find where my notes are here.
Hello?
Yes, now we hear you.
Okay, Nate. My name is Herbert Feuerstein. I'm representing the Sykes, the pool application. We are clear on the 2 variances that we will need from the Zoning Board of Appeals. We got on engineering's review, and the only real comment was lighting. The landscape architect, Matthew Willinger, is here, and he would be happy to address that. In any event, we will, comply with all village regulations. And if he would rate.
If you mentioned you went to the zoning board and you got the variances.
No. We have not been. I'm clear on what we need to.
Okay. It was confusing what that meant.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My wife says the same thing.
What's not clear is, did you get the landscape architect's recommendations?
Yes, we've no, I did not.
The last set, August 4th.
I did not get them today. All I got was what we received.
Well, let me go through some of that.
That's very significant.
First thing I want to say is that remember, you recall the tree that was not really part of the project. It was it was 53 inches.
Correct.
And we said it's not part of the project, even though you may want to take it down for various reasons. It's not something we want to rule on.
Right.
And it's still in the project, as if we're saying you can't take it down. That's the perception. And we never said you can't take it down. We just said if you'd like to take it down because of whatever reason, you need to go to the tree commission. And because it's not not part of this project, it shouldn't be in this project. So any verbiage connected to that tree should be erased from this project, so it doesn't seem like the planning board told you you cannot take it down, because we're not saying you cannot take it down. We're just saying we're not going to say yay or nay on that tree. It's up to the tree commission.
We're clear on that. If we need to
Well, if you were
you-
clear on it, you should take the words out.
Okay, we will.
And there's some other things. The wall that's going to be moved, the current wall is going to be moved into the roots of the hemlock tree.
Right.
At this point, I don't see that happening. What you proposed is to me is unacceptable. And I'll move on. I'll give the rest of the board time to comment on that. And there's a large, I'm trying to read my notes here, a 54-inch red oak that the pool, the south end of the, no, let me see. Yeah, the south end of the pool gets into the root system of that 54-inch oak, red oak, which is pretty much on the property line to your south. You have any comment on that? Our arborist, our landscape had some serious issues with cutting through the roots for that pool.
If Matthew Willinger would raise his hand and let the landscape architect address that.
Okay, you know what?
We'll move on.
Yeah, you go through the whole list.
Yeah. The tree replacement plan, one tree is kind of slim, to say the least. It would seem that you should be able to do more than one tree. A lot of your lighting, the uplighting in the trees in the front, the beech trees that we have information that that's not dark sky compliant. And the trenching, let me finish, the trenching for the lighting to get there will disturb the roots of those beech trees. So you'd have to demonstrate that the lighting is dark sky compliant, and we have information that it's not, according to code. So that I think in addition to that, I think the two main issues is the hemlock tree with moving the wall. I don't think the pool is the project, not the wall. I just don't see moving that wall into an area so close to that hemlock. If you can get your arborist on to talk about these tree roots in both situations, we're not happy with a field guy saying there, oh, okay, the wall can be moved because I said so. We want to see it up front. And frankly, I just don't see it for that wall. The wall is a peripheral part of this total project. The pool is the central piece of this project. In order to get a pool, you don't need to move the wall and imperil the hemlock. Any other board members have a comment before the applicant comes back? George?
Only thing I ask is the applicant to show why he's done what he's done with moving the wall. So I'm sure you can put it on your screen and show us.
Dan?
I think you covered the two issues that we talked about.
And Kevin?
No, I don't have any other questions.
Either I do.
Go ahead.
Suzanne had a lot of really, really significant comments. You talked about some of them, but there's more things. So I think it's important that somebody get over is, Will, didn't you attach the Nolan's memo to your?
Mary Ann, we had trouble getting them out with the computer. Doug was here today.
Okay.
They all went out, but a lot of them bounced back.
Oh, okay.
We're not sure if anybody got them.
Mary Ann?
I did not get them.
Yeah.
Mary Ann, let them address the significant things I did. And when they come back for the next meeting, they'll by that time, they'll have
I just
Mary
don't want them
Ann's-
to get lost. They can't really address them tonight. Yeah.
Right.
I
Yeah.
agree.
But they're coming back anyway because the roots in the pool are significant. It's an issue that needs to be addressed. According to Susan, one could address it with a mitigation plan to save that 54-inch red oak on the south boundary. And I asked the question, what do you mean by mitigation? And she says, well, there's fertilization and there's a maintenance program that could be developed. And my question is, you're gonna cut out a quadrant of root, do the rest of the root system is enough to support what's left of, for the tree? That's a layman's question, but it seems like it makes sense to me. All right.
That certainly would be
Herb.
very important to us to
Okay,
protect that tree.
all right, Herb, you go ahead.
I'll let Matthew address the tree issue. We had, at the last meeting, we had spoken about the wall and we had spoken to our forester, thought it would be okay to do an investigation and basically do some exploration to see where that root area goes to, and certainly weren't planning on doing anything to hurt that tree. And we had put language in that we had discussed at the last meeting. Again, we're willing to work with the board on that. And as you said, it's not a primary part of the project. And I'll let Matthew talk about that and talk about the oak tree roots. Although I will point out, we are that setback distance plus away from that tree. I don't have.
Yeah, you're a lot further from the red oak than you are from the hemlock. The base of that retaining wall is like 7 feet from the tree. You're considerably closer than the red oak. And like I said, it's not a piece of the main part of this project you want to pull. And the wall moving, you already got a wall there, and it's not part of the main part of this project for the project to move forward. Right. To fight over the moving a wall that's already there. Moving a wall closer to a tree that may damage it. I just don't get it. But you can move ahead.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm Matthew Willinger. I'm a landscape designer with James Doyle Design Associates, and we're the landscape architects who worked on this project.
Excuse me. Are you an arborist?
No, I am not.
Okay.
But we did review all the elements of this project with an arborist. Regarding the hemlock tree is extremely important to us. It is a lovely tree, and we would not do anything to harm the tree. What we intended to do with the wall, the reason that we wondered about moving the wall is just to create more symmetricality in the design in the back. But what we have reviewed with our arborist is that he would give us a recommendation by by air spading the roots to make sure that we would not be harming the critical root zone. So that is, we got a letter from him and we included that in our plan. And basically, what we would want from him is to indicate where we could move the wall so as not to harm the roots. And his investigation would dictate that. So our plan, I think it's pretty clear. Our plan says that we will go by his recommendation and he will let us know if and where we can move the wall. And if there's any indication that we cannot move, that we would be harming this tree, we will not move the wall.
Well, the position of my position here is that I'm not going to approve a moving wall. I need to know where it's going to be. And right now I don't know where it's going to be. I know where the existing wall is, and it seems fine to me. And you're not going forward with a moving wall.
Okay, then we will update that.
Let me just say something. Your letter indicated that you would figure that out on the field. And
yes.
Yeah, I know, but that's not how this board doesn't give approvals for stuff that may be determined later. You figure it out ahead of time before it can approve it.
Okay.
Could I make a suggestion or ask a question? You guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfectly.
Okay. So is it possible that we leave it out and we will, when we start construction, we will investigate that root situation rather than digging things up at this point? And if it is a possibility, is it a possibility to then amend the plans? And we're happy to come back to the board at that point. In other words, leave it
Mary
out
Ann?
of the
That's really a call for Ed. It makes some sense to me, but that Ed would determine that.
It'll hold up the project, but yeah, leave the original wall on the plan
right.
and then go from there. If they want to come back, they can come back with a revision.
Yeah. I agree with that, Caesar.
Can't you also say that if they were to find out that magically they can move the wall where they want to move it, and that Ed agrees and the landscape, the arborist or whatever, the landscape for Irvington agrees, that they could in fact then use that as plan B? So it's either leave the wall as is, but if all of a sudden everything is happy that they can move it, that they move it in the location that they desire as it is right now?
You can approve it that way also.
Yeah, I would change the language. To
I
say-
would rather than come back, George.
Okay. It just seems to me that what's happening here is that everyone's on the same page, that no one wants this tree to be
Yes.
hurt, which
Yes.
is a good thing. And so if there's a way to make it easier for all, since everyone's on the same page, then I would be for that. But if not, so be it.
Ed, what do you
Okay.
think?
Whatever you guys want, either way works for me. Just, it's got to be solid on the plan, what you're approving, that's all. With a note on the plan saying, no work to be done on this wall unless approved by the village landscape architect and building inspector.
The trouble, George, is Plan B may not be, it might be a Plan C, that they only move the wall halfway to where they want to move
Right.
it now.
Right, if they do, then they have to come back. But if magically they can, then they don't have to come back. That's all. But whatever you guys decide, it's fine with me.
Kevin?
I guess for me, it's just the clarity of the resolution. It sounds like it would be difficult to do. I kind of I agree with George that it would be nice to be able to do that, but I just don't know how difficult it would be to draft that resolution. And I don't know if the applicants would prefer to maybe just explore and be able to have a little more details about what their proposal is. I guess I'm willing to go with the flow on it. I don't know how to draft that resolution about something that we don't know exactly yet.
Yeah, well, in terms of drafting it, if you agree with it, I mean, I can draft whatever. But you know, the thing is, there's a whole lot, there are a bunch of other issues. They have to come back next week anyway, next
Oh, yeah,
month.
I know.
So,
How can I see the landscape architect's recommendations? and
You'll get them tomorrow, hopefully. If you didn't get them today.
Dan?
I pretty much had the same concerns and as you did, Caesar, with the trees and the retaining wall. And I'm not quite sure how that would be resolved, but I mean, if Ed feels that it can be worked out, for all parties, but again, it's a little trepidation on my behalf.
Why don't we do this? Since he's going to be sitting down with Suzanne anyway to discuss the landscape issues, why don't I give Suzanne a call and I'll discuss it with her, and we'll take her recommendation into consideration at the pre-meeting next month, Caesar.
All right, no one else had strong opinions about Plan A and Plan B, so I'll go along with George on Plan A and Plan B.
Okay.
And Mary Ann seemed to be able to handle it if and when we get to a resolution. So that's it for the wall. Let's move on to the pool and the red oak.
Well, the red oak is a beautiful large tree. I'm part of the reason, it's a healthy, beautiful tree, and we're certainly not going to do anything to damage it. We reviewed all the trees on the site with the arborist, and we were given we requested the canopy information from them. I have not seen the landscape architect's comments. We certainly are not interested in doing anything to harm that tree. And if there are recommendations to prevent that, we will certainly undertake them.
Right, there's a chunk of roots that are gonna come out. Granted, it's within a, if I remember, a 40-foot zone of
Right.
impact.
Right.
And one needs to know the impact of taking out those roots, and one needs to know if there should be a mitigation plan to mitigate taking out those roots. If it's a maintenance plan for the tree, that it's not getting the kind of nutrients those roots would provide, but you can artificially provide them for a period of time until more roots grow. I think you need a mitigation plan and an explanation on that the next time we see it. In addition to all the other things that you haven't seen in our report, in Suzanne Nolan's report, and and be certain that it's written up by an arborist, so that it's something that we can hang our hat on as an arborist did the report.
So do you recommend that I obviously I should be able to read and review these comments, but should I go ahead and get a mitigation plan as soon as possible for that red oak?
You should get one by the time we have a next meeting.
Yeah, but what I suggest he talk first to Suzanne Nolan.
Give Susan a call.
Because she did have a lot of issues with the report, the way it was submitted. And like, we'll do this out on the field. We'll do things that make sure it's protected. So it might be helpful I guess it's Matthew.
Yes.
To speak with Suzanne Nolan as soon as you get her memo and figure out the best way to proceed.
Great. And her contact will be on the memo?
Yeah.
Yes, it's all on there.
Great. Can I speak about the lights?
Well, let's make sure we're finished with the trees.
Oh, yes, please.
Does anybody on the board have further comments on the trees? Okay, let's go to the lighting.
Well, we did review your code, and our understanding of the code was that any kind of uplights, if they were shielded correctly and they were low voltage, were compliant and acceptable. One
in particular is you have two manufacturer specifications on one of your landscape plans.
Yes.
One of them is a straight uplight, which I don't see how. And if you take a look at our code, did you look at our definitions?
Several of us reviewed the code carefully.
Review our code and look at the definition. There's a detail in the definition.
Yeah.
That's pretty much will explain everything you need.
So it is, if there's any objection to those uplights, the lights that point straight up, we are perfectly fine with changing them to a directional fixture, like the other
Take a look at our definition. And I believe the one on the left on the page is non-compliant. The one on the right is compliant. The step light one is a compliant one.
Right.
It's the uplight one that it's just, I don't see how it can be compliant in the manner that our code is defined.
And Will, I don't know if because I didn't get your revised memos yet, but did the memo, do you have it there?
Yes.
Does it say demonstrate compliance with the lighting law?
Yes.
Okay, so you can demonstrate, I mean, as Ed said, check the code of it, but then demonstrate compliance with it.
Okay, like I said, we are perfectly happy to change that to a directional fixture if there's
Look at our code. We just want to make sure it's right.
Okay.
And this is a secondary issue on those lighting for the uplighting on those trees.
Yes.
The trenching to get the electrical power to the lights is going to go through the root structure. That should be addressed.
Okay. Yeah, it is. I hope you believe me when I say it is extremely important to us that we do not harm any of the, particularly the beech tree and the large red oak, which are are
Well,
beautiful.
beech trees are a little
Shallow
sensitive.
rooted, yes.
They're not doing well lately because of various reasons. We have 3 on my property, and we have to have the arborist come in and treat and feed them every year. So I tend to think that disturbing the roots may be an issue, especially if they're not in the best condition to start with.
Yes, that tree is much more important to us than uplights.
Okay, look at the root structure for the electrical cables needed to go to the lights.
Okay,
I mentioned earlier the 1 tree replacement, and I think you can do better than 1 tree. That's just a comment. Our end, I'm finished with my comments. Anybody on the board have additional comments about the lighting, any trees, what's going on in the pool or anything else? Dan?
No, you hit upon every issue that we're concerned with here.
George?
No, I have no further comments.
And Kevin?
No, thank you.
Okay, any comment from the public? Is there any public out there, Sarah?
Nobody's raising their hand.
What about the chat? I forgot to ask about chat.
There's no comments on this application in the chat.
Okay. Okay,
These
Herb,
are-
I guess you got, yeah, Ed?
It's all right for them to go to ZBA based on what I heard.
What?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay, no, okay. So we'll hold off on ZBA till September, all right?
That's, we were, well, I'll just say.
I'll send them a memo.
We don't have enough because the variance issue, I guess, is fairly significant. We were hoping to get that started if that's.
Well, you have, the pool needs variances for 2 reasons. It's beyond the rear building line, and it's front yard setback. And it's got trouble with the red oak, with the 54-inch red oak to the south.
So you want to see the red oak addressed before we can go to ZBA?
Yeah, because it may influence where the pool is, it may, eventually. And, I think George and I both agree, I think we all agree that architecturally, it looks like the right place, but there's code issues and tree issues. Architecturally, it may be right, but physically it may not be.
Is there any way that they can go to ZBA specifically for just to address, God forbid you go through all this efforts and then the ZBA says, no, we're not going to let you have a pool in that location. And they've gone through all these efforts. Is there a way to somehow make it so that there is a way that they can at least find out this information subject to, or whatever language you want to use, that this can proceed, at least to find out if it's a project or not? That's, I guess, the concern for me.
Be aware that if the planning board says it needs to move because of that tree, because of the 54-inch oak, then they would have to come back to the planning board. They would have to go back to the zoning board because it's in a different location. And then the other thing that could happen is the zoning board says, yeah, that's fine. And then the planning board says it's not because of the tree. And we're in another one of those situations like we were in Lubrick, and we end up in court and lose because 2 boards came to different conclusions.
Well, Marianne, it sounded like you're recommending no zoning board, so I'll go along with that.
I know what George is saying, and I'm really sympathetic to that.
Yeah.
But the other thing though is I would think from the applicant's perspective that you would be in a stronger position if you went to the planning board, to the zoning board, with the planning board having said this is the best location for the pool, or we approve this location for the pool. I don't know if you want to kick in, Ed.
Yeah, I go along with that. So we'll hold off on the zoning board recommendation.
I'll just raise one question. I know the applicants are anxious to try and get this started before the winter. We're not that close to the tree. I mean, obviously, I can't speak for the town's forester, but that there should be some way to make that work. And if need be, and the pool got shorter, it seems we'd be decreasing any variance asked, not increasing it. And again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just an architect.
Yeah, but shortening the pool doesn't change the two major things of, it's beyond the rear yard building line and beyond the front yard setback.
Well, that was my point of trying to get to the ZBA before we do more other work. If those are significant enough for the ZBA, it really doesn't matter if we do mitigation on the tree.
What's the actual length dimensions of the pool? If you have it handy.
Look at that. Drawings. I'm on my phone, so I can't pull up another screen.
So the pool it's a 48-foot long pool by 18 feet wide.
And how far is it from the property line?
It is 29.4 feet.
And the oak is located 25 feet or something?
The oak is located on the property line.
On the property line. So we're fairly far from
Well, I remember the numbers Susan told us yesterday. If I remember, she said the canopy, wasn't it 40 feet add to
40 feet, yeah.
on the canopy? And then, but where we actually require more than the canopy is the canopy, and she said the roots would be 70 feet. I mean, it wasn't insignificant, that we weren't talking inches.
Yeah, I think we'll hold off on the ZBA.
All right. We're I guess, I have to say for the clients, we're disappointed that we didn't have these comments ahead of time, so we could have at least addressed them. And I know everybody's operating under difficulties because of COVID, communications, etc.
Well, the memo was just done yesterday.
Okay.
We had a little bit of a storm yesterday, right after the memo was written.
I was cutting firewood in the back of my yard too.
I was here for 14 hours.
It's a lot different, reviewing a set of plans in your hands as opposed to looking at them and trying to go back and forth on a computer screen.
Absolutely.
Anyway, any other questions from the board? No. Any questions from the public? Is there any public, Sarah?
No.
I think we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, and when you come back in your cover letter, please identify clearly addressing where we can see the adjustments and where you addressed the comments so that we don't have to look through 20, 30 pages to find them.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Good night.
Good night. All right, we're going to number 6. This is 2018-05, 26 Lewis Road.
Hello. You guys can hear me?
Yes.
Hi, John.
Hi, John Malone, Ferguson Malone Architecture, representing Emily and Benjamin Burley. This is a resubmission for modifications to project. In our letter, we outlined the changes. We received the memo from Han. It didn't have any specific items on that. Is there somewhere you guys want to go to discuss this?
Yeah, there's new walls in the back there, new retaining wall that was not approved in the original submission, but was built even though it was not approved. And there's some fill that went in, at least our understanding of it. There was some fill that went in behind that wall, which covered over the roots of 2 trees, a 26-inch oak and a 12-inch hickory. you have any calculations on how much soil was filled over the roots of those two trees?
So Caesar, just so I'm clear, where are these trees and?
Well, there's a new wall that was constructed that wasn't part in the back. William, could you bring it up?
Or
There's an extension in the back that comes around towards the house. And specifically, the tree impact is on the one in front of the driveway.
So is
Side
that
of driveway.
TR4, Ed? Do you want me to share a screen?
Yeah, share screen, please.
Okay, let me share a screen. Make sure it's the right screen here. Hold on a sec, I'll make it bigger. Are you guys seeing that?
Yeah, that's it.
So this is TR4.
04, yeah.
Okay.
Move it to the right.
To the right. What, you mean this way? Is that right, Caesar?
Move the screen. Slide your screen to the right.
This way?
What we're talking about is off the left-hand corner. Now move it down.
Okay, so Caesar, you're looking at the one on the back, right? So you want to talk about the one on the back first?
I'm talking, look at different ones.
Yeah, so the impact of TR55 is what he's questioning first.
TR.
And then we'll get to 04 next.
Where's TR55 at in the back?
Stop. It's right there in front of the wall.
Yeah, there you go.
To the right side of the house.
Oh, I got it. TR55 here?
Yeah.
Okay. And TR55 is I have to go to the other plan. Okay. So we're worried about root impacts to TR55. Okay.
It's 26-inch oak and a 12-inch hickory.
Okay. Okay, I guess, yeah. Okay. What we can do is get an arborist opinion on, how much of the root structure was impacted by the wall. This wall that we're looking at.
It's not necessarily the wall. I mean, the wall has some fill behind it. And how deep is the fill over the existing roots? You can't put a foot of fill on top of roots and expect the tree to grow.
Right, and my understanding is depending on what percentage of the roots are impacted like that is really what it is. You can't put that much fill over all of it, but we can determine the depth of that fill.
Right, I was using an exaggeration to make a point.
Okay, all right. So we can have our arborists come and look at it. We can determine the fill depth, the depth of the fill over what percentage of the root ball or the root, and make sure that the tree, if it needs some kind of treatment or help, we can indicate what that would be. Does that make sense?
And that's in 2 spots.
So then the other one, Ed, is 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this wall over here near TR4, I looked at, this wall is on top of the ground and has much less fill associated with it, but we can do the same thing on this one. This tree is leaning one way, the canopy is to the right, and the area where this wall is rock. So we don't believe there's roots in that area, but we can give you an opinion on that as well. We're gonna bring someone out.
Ed, is there any issues that the fact that we didn't review these walls in the first instance, they just went up without?
That's why they're here.
Okay, what about coverage with adding these walls?
Yeah, he's put it on his plan.
Okay.
Is
The
there
project is significantly below coverage, Caesar, so I don't think there was any impact related to coverage. And then there was actually a slight reduction in coverage because of some other stuff that was eliminated. A patio was eliminated, the driveway was reduced. I mean, that was impervious, but there's other reductions that are shown here.
Okay. Any comment? George just walked away. Dan?
No comment, Caesar.
Kevin?
No, thank you.
Caesar?
George, you have anything on this? George, you have anything on this?
No, I don't. No, I'm sorry.
Mary Ann, you were about to say something?
Yeah, just that Suzanne also had required that one native canopy or understory tree should be restored to the plant list. That was the other comment, John.
We didn't receive that, but
Yeah. No,
we
I'm
do
just
have
telling
a
you.
native we have a flowering dogwood indicated. I'll work it out with Suzanne. We have to
Yeah.
show you the other stuff. It's not a big deal. But
Okay.
as long as I can get those notes, or so that I don't sound like an idiot when I call her.
Okay, I won't touch that one.
That was a softball, Caesar.
I know. Any public out there, Sarah?
No one's raising their hand.
Okay, I guess we'll wait for you to come back.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, we'll move to number 7. That's 2020-17. Fitzpatrick, 31 Matheson Park.
George, just so you know, this was Bob Mackey's house.
Not anymore.
No, I'm just telling, because George was on the board with Bob. I'm just telling that this was his house.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, that was my sound check.
Well, we see you and we hear you, or at
Perfect.
least I do.
My name is, go ahead.
Ed, you want to cover what we mean by open space consideration? I see it on the agenda here.
Yeah. Part of the review on large parcels, whether they're developed or not, is any space that the ECB at the time of writing this document identified properties that had concern for open space. So this needs to be reviewed for open space. I'm thinking we'll do the same thing as we did on the last one. We'll have Susan give us a summary based on the attributes of the property. I'm sure it's going to come back to be a single family home use.
Okay, some preliminary comments on what you submitted. You need a site plan, and you need to talk to Ed about what is a Irvington site plan. There might be coverage issues, which we don't know because there's no site plan. And there's engineering issues that you could talk to Han Engineering about. There's a view preservation issue, which you need to make a presentation on. There's a street view of the neighbors. We would like to see a street view of the proposed home in relation to the existing homes, so we can get a picture of what it would look like because you're looking for a height variance. There's the lighting. Lighting has there's dark sky lighting, trees, landscape planting plan, tree replacement plan. It's a whole nest of things.
So basically you have a lot of stuff and you had a lot of good information. It needs to be correlated into a site plan. The coverage document you did from the surveyor, it's a good document, but some of it counts as coverage, some of it doesn't count as non-pervious surfaces.
And it's hard to do any of the things I went through without a site plan that's workable.
The site plan showing the setbacks, showing the topo, or actually show the topo around the property line, around the building envelope. All should be incorporated into one document. And then I think Caesar mulled over, let's start moving along on the view preservation. We need a street line view of the neighboring property to the left and to the right that shows elevations. If you could, on your FAR calculations, if you could put a street elevation line through the building at the front elevation, because everything below that doesn't count. So you credited we believe FAR is fine. We're more concerned about coverage. But your FAR should not have included the credit for the garage because you're not counting the garage as FAR if it's not more than 3 feet above exposed on the front elevation facing the street. So little things, it's all little things like that. you want to give Doug a call tomorrow, or actually Will, probably be better. He can go over that with you.
I think this was one of the two applications we talked about that there's a lot of very specific engineering comments on here, but before you start addressing them, give the board the site plan and these other things like the view preservation renderings and stuff, so you get a sense of where the board is going with it before you hone in on the really technical engineering stuff. Am I right? Isn't that what we talked about yesterday?
Yeah, the goal here is not to spend money on the engineering because you have a significant variance in height to get. So what we want to do is make sure we have all the information we have to make sure you only go to ZBA once. It'll work out if you can get all the stuff done in 2 weeks and resubmit it to us to make the next ZBA meeting in September.
And then your plans also, if we just took your numbers, would show that you need a coverage variance. But our hunch is that you included a lot of things in coverage that don't really driveway, which doesn't ordinarily get. So kind of before you start moving more specifically through the process, you got to get the big picture to the planning board. And when he's talking about talking to the engineer tomorrow, it isn't so much to deal with.
Yeah, we won't go through the engineering. We don't want to spend the time and money on that yet until we
to figure out
on the big ticket
site
item.
plan is, and they'll show you, how you can, because you've got very complicated coverage because you've got so many things. Give you an example of plans that that help you to show how much coverage there is, to demonstrate.
Your engineer who did the drainage plan does do site plans, and he does them pretty detailed for Irvington, if you want some advice from him as well.
On the positive side, in a general sense, it's very impressive, but you need to put meat on the skeleton.
So can I share my screen and ask a couple questions?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Was that successful?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So we used Link.
You can make it a little, there you go. Make it a little bigger.
Come in.
Okay. There you go.
We used Link Land Surveying as the surveyor. Worked with Eric in the past. He was very familiar with Irvington. This here is the existing survey. And then this is the coverage. I just want to make sure all of the documents that we actually prepared did indeed make it to your desk.
Yeah, we're not going to go through documents in that manner tonight.
Okay.
Okay. So if you want to make a presentation, make a presentation. But we're not going to go through each document individually.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit about the variance comment that is part of that was mentioned earlier?
The only one that was identifiable immediately was the height. Our height goes from the lowest point of the periphery, whether it's the lowest before or finished, to the height of the building, with an exception for steep slopes, which you may or may not have, to 40 feet, if you can demonstrate that.
So when you say lowest point of the periphery?
Right, of the building.
Okay, and that's anything that's exposed even due to an egress window well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ed, what about the 2.5 story?
Yeah, well, you also have a 2.5 story issue, but I contribute that to height. And it may be that a variance is warranted. We're not judging you on that at this point. We just want to make sure we understand and have the right numbers before you go to ZBA.
Okay, and a couple names were thrown out on who we should talk about fine tuning this set. And who was
Will from Han Engineering will look at the particulars. If you want to have a quick chat about height, you can call me tomorrow sometime if I'm around. I don't even know where I'll be. I'll be in
That
the
was an
office probably
incoming call
till
that I got rid.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the comments because we did a lot of research and didn't come up with that.
The height?
Yes.
I told one of your representatives 6 months ago, you have a height problem.
Okay.
All right.
The coverage issue needs to be, that could be important. The rest of the stuff you can address easily. The tree plan, replanting, existing trees, and so forth, lighting, dark sky.
Yeah, I don't want to get into those quite yet,
Yeah, I don't
Caesar.
either, but
No,
the kind
they're
of things
important. I'm
that
not
can
saying they're
take
not
care of.
important, but
Yeah.
I'd like to get the big stuff out of the way first.
Yep.
Well, we have
What I'm saying, the big stuff is the coverage and the height.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not overly concerned about being able to get that turned around for you in those 2 weeks. I look forward to those
Yeah.
conversations.
Okay.
I also
The big
have-
thing is getting a proper site plan. So.
You have
all
enough
this other-
information to do it. I think you just have to correlate it into a site plan.
Okay, so maybe what I need to do is have Hudson Engineering take over that rather than Link Land Surveying per somebody's earlier comments.
Who from Hudson is doing the work?
Sorry, this is Alberto on the phone.
Okay, he knows what to do. All
Yep.
right.
So as
All
far
right.
as the coverage, the main difference, I believe, is just the driveway, right?
You know, take a quick look at it, but yeah, there's probably a patio that was too close to the property line, a few other things like that, but nothing. I mean, after the total coverage, I think that if you take the driveway out, I don't know what the number is because.
Gotcha. I mean, from a stormwater perspective, I think it was a reduction, a few feet reduction, pre and post.
Yeah,
but
but coverage is coverage, and I just want to make sure you didn't include the driveway.
And
Yeah,
take a look
coverage.
at the data sheet that was put in. It shows it's way over, which I think is wrong, but
Yeah.
to fix that up.
We'll take a look at that. No worries.
Okay, any comment from the board? I'm sorry, Chuck, I guess it is. You have anything else you want to add?
I have the owner, Dawn Fitzpatrick, who's a third generation of Irvington. She has just some concerns about an event that
All
happened.
right, we'll wait till public comment on that, which will be next.
Okay.
Do you have any comment from the board?
Wait, is that the matter that happened yesterday?
Correct.
Yeah, I don't think that needs to be aired here. This is a separate issue to a separate board. This board has nothing to do with that matter.
Okay.
Okay, we understand it.
Any
We
comment?
understand it's severe, but I don't want to air it in the public like this.
Any other comment from the board? Dan?
I'm all set at this point.
George?
My only comment is this, is that I'm usually risk averse to giving variances or going to the zoning board for new construction. So I would appreciate if the architect would basically explain why this is required in a way that I can comprehend. But I would say that in principle, I don't see why one needs, unless there's a specific need, that they would need a variance. So that has to be detailed and explained thoroughly so I understand it.
George, I presume you're talking about the height.
Correct.
Kevin?
No, I don't have any comments.
Any public? Sarah?
No one's raising their hand.
I don't know. We're raising our hand. This is crazy.
We hear you.
Can you hear me?
Sure.
This is crazy. I am raising my hand. I have lived in this town for 50 years, and you did not want to hear my comments. We are
Excuse
not.
me, could you identify? Excuse me, miss, could you identify yourself, please?
My name is Dawn Fitzpatrick. I have lived in Irvington for 50 years, and I own the property being discussed.
Okay.
And my family and I have continually contributed to this community. And we are not asking for a variance. We have bought multiple homes in this town, and we've always been good neighbors and contributors. And to be clear, this home being vacant, there is a cost. So these deliberations have a cost. Yesterday, a criminal stole things from my house and interacted with my 11-year-old child. And I think it's not responsible for this board to not understand that cost, and it's real. And again, everything we have ever done in this community has been positive. So I want this board to be on record to understanding the cost of delaying this and having an empty house in our neighborhood, and the fact that a felony crime was committed yesterday because of this.
Okay, this is the first, this project, this is the first time it's been put in front of this board. And there's significant issues that need to be addressed. I think they were very forthcoming with their concerns and helpful in directing your consultants to provide them correct documents. But this is the first time it's been submitted and it's being heard in a timely fashion. Any delays prior to this are not this board's fault.
And I'd like to say that I'm sorry for the break-in, and I'm sure our Irvington Police Department is on the job. They're pretty efficient at things. And you mentioned that you're not seeking a variance, then you need to talk to your consultants, because the way it looks now, it might need a variance, and that would require a ZBA or zoning board. So you may want to consult with your with the consultant regarding the need for a height variance, which would further cause an additional review by a different board.
Hello,
Okay.
may I ask a question?
Go right ahead.
And this is Tara Fitzpatrick. I'm the designer, project manager on the job. And I just want to clarify, is the 40-foot height variance due, because I know this structure is significantly lower than the existing home on the property. Is the 40-foot variance, is that because of a lower level underground like window that is, because if it's, is it a window that's on the very south of the property? That's, what is that? 'Cause I don't understand the 40-foot variance.
Let me explain it briefly for you so you understand.
Thank you.
When that house was built, the code was different than it is today. It used to be to the average height of the roof. Now it's to the totality of the roof, to the lowest point of the periphery. So when that original house was built, and this might be a good argument for you at ZBA, the code was different. So you have that issue. That's probably a perception issue that needs to be understood from the board's perspective too. Second, it goes by the periphery. So the further you go down a hill, the taller the building gets, even though at the very high point it stays the same. By code, it gets taller. So this house is turned a little bit sideways and it goes a little bit further down the hill, and it's a steep lot. So you have good arguments at ZBA, but George has a good point also. So you need to understand all that before you take your next steps. And we've offered your professional time to sit with us. But like I said, this is the first time we've seen the application.
Yeah, I'm simultaneously working on these dimensions to show the 40 foot, and I don't believe that we are going to need a height as designed.
Well, qualifying for the 40 foot is also important to figure out, because the existing footprint doesn't count as a slope. But the building envelope is large enough, so you might be okay. I just want to make sure you understood that.
And that kind of stuff would show up on a real
site plan.
site plan, yeah.
Well, if the owner is concerned about expediting, it would seem to me that this height issue and should be resolved so that a variance is not needed, and that would eliminate a second board needing to deliberate on the height variance. So that seems to be an important point in terms of how fast this moves along and how many boards have to look at it.
There will not be a height variance needed.
Well, that's good. Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, the Fitzpatricks, the two that have commented.
You're any other than a site?
Any other public out there?
No.
And the board, we're finished with comment from the board? Dan, George, Kevin?
Yep.
Okay, we're done. Thank you very much. And I hope we, as you do, we don't like extending these things, but this is the first time we're looking at it, and it is a large project. And we also have a greater public to look to make sure that it fits in. And like I said, the good news is from looking at the presentation, it was very impressive. But now you need to put the meat on the bones, and we'll move along. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Next is number 8 on the agenda. As soon as they sign out. Chuck Williams, you're still on the screen. You need to leave the meeting. 2020-21. Nick and Vanessa Robinson, 202 Hermits Road. Sarah, do we have an applicant?
Yes.
I
You're
can't
on
find-
mute. David, okay.
Good evening, members of the board.
Your audio just cut out.
Oh, I'm having problems with internet, so bear with me. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. David Barbuti, architect, representing Nick and Vanessa Robinson, 202 Hermits Road. We are here tonight for a proposed 3-car detached garage, 864 square feet. It's the first meeting. I am in receipt of Mr. Hahn's memo. I did not receive the landscape consultant's comments. So as I mentioned, it's a 3-car garage. We tried to locate it in an area that is relatively flat, right off an existing gravel driveway. There are a few trees that need to be removed. I have the surveyor working on sizes and exact locations of those trees. So one of Mr. Hahn's comments is to do a tree removal plan, which hopefully next meeting I will have prepared for you.
All right, there's some site plan issues that you need to talk to Ed about. Probably, Ed, you want to hit him now, or do you want to talk to him offline?
We can briefly talk. We need a site plan showing construction access, silt fence, tree protection, all the miscellaneous stuff.
Well,
we
we need
need
that. We need that for coverage.
We need to understand the coverage just a little bit better, making sure we're fine. Protection for the septic system, things like that.
Okay.
All right. You'll get the memos tomorrow or Friday the latest.
No problem.
And what about the open space consideration?
This is just like the last application. This property was identified as being significant to the ECB at the time of generating the list of properties, and it'll have to be reviewed to make sure that the use is appropriate. The proposed additional use is appropriate to the property.
And I think you mentioned, was it David? I think you mentioned that you're going to look at the tree protection and the tree replanting plan.
Correct.
Because I think there's a tree in the footprint that, so you need a replanting plan.
Okay.
And our landscaper, Susan Nolan, I'm not sure if she commented on this, but if she did and you don't have it, I'm sure we'll get it to you.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I read through Hans, comments. Couple of things I thought were on here, but apparently weren't. So, I mean, I'll address them in the proper fashion to the board's acceptance, as well as the landscape comments.
We did get a letter from a neighbor at 204 Hermits. And I'll go through it and then I'll ask for a comment from the public if they're there. There was a question about runoff, and I'm sure Bill, William, you'll be looking at that. I'm not sure. I think it's too early to look at the runoff because we don't have a real site plan. Bill?
Yeah, we took a look at the drainage calcs. I think what they have is looking okay.
And the retention and
Yeah, they're
taking care.
Yeah, they're proposing infiltration. There's just some ledge rock in the area that they should take a look at and make sure it's not an issue.
So they might probably have to do a depot investigation to make sure we're not on top of rock.
Yes.
You got that, David, the depot?
And that's generally, I could do that during, before I start doing foundations and things like that.
I think since we have a concern of a neighbor, I think it should be done now.
Okay.
Can you, when you redo the survey, there's a shed on the driveway. I was just like a wood shed. I was just curious why that didn't show up on your survey. Right on the left as you're driving up.
On the left as I'm driving up, is that over?
Before you get to the top of the hill.
Oh, I don't know. I'll find out.
Yeah, just have the surveyor, if the surveyor is going out locating the trees, make sure any other attributes that are on the property are identified. This is the one on the left of the driveway going up.
I think there's something that needs to be addressed in this envelope, in this letter. There's a indication that the current house that's there didn't have a site plan approved. And I'm not sure how that would happen. Ed, you have a comment on that?
That's for the house itself?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the house went through a vigorous site plan approval with health department involvement.
Yeah, we were here about 5 years ago, right, Ed?
Yeah.
Caesar, you shouldn't, Caesar, indicate that the letter, the date of the letter and that it's in the record because it was sent
Okay,
before the
we're
meeting.
talking about this letter, and I mentioned it's from Jonathan D. Elwin, it's dated August 5th, 2020. And it's to the planning board. And we'll be asking for a public comment after we finish with the board comment. Any board comment? Dan?
No, Caesar. Yeah, I was just concerned about the letter, and we did bring it up and brought it before the.
George?
Yeah, as I understand it, he's asking for no variances. This is something that fits within the coverage and setbacks. So in essence, that he has the right to do this, but I do ask the applicant to review with the letter from the neighbor to see if they can address the concerns of that neighbor. It's always a good thing to do.
Well, I hit the highlights. I'm sure the person who wrote the letter may have more comment than what I hit the highlights in. And we're going to be looking at the treatment system. There's going to be a deep hole test because there was ledge rock on the property. And we want to make sure any infiltration that's planned actually happens, and because rock doesn't do well with infiltration. Okay, and Kevin? Kevin? Hey, Kevin.
It looked like he nodded out. There you go. Kevin,
You're muted out. Unmute, Kevin.
I dropped off for a moment somehow, internet, but I don't have anything to add right now. I mean, you could open it to the public.
All right, any comment from the public there, Sarah?
Yes.
I don't have video. Am I being heard?
Go ahead, John.
Hey, thanks, guys. So thank you very much for reading the letter and bringing it up during the meeting.
I didn't read the letter. I just hit some highlights that I thought were highlights.
Okay. Well, I think you hit the salient points. And just for the record, I'm John Elwin. I'm a neighbor to the west of the property. The comments I made about the site plan, the prior site plan not taking place, was that it was presented at that time as a renovation. And in fact, it became a tear down. And we were very surprised and shocked at the sheer mass of the house that was built. It has a very imposing edifice, and from our observation, I don't have any way to prove this, we think it may exceed the height limitations of the code. So I would appreciate knowing or having the architect show that it is compliant. I'd be difficult to take the top off now, but that would have an impact on thinking about additional mass being put very close to my property line. So secondary to the runoff concerns, which it sounds like you're going to address by reviewing the site to make sure there's appropriate percolation. The bigger concern is that this lines up 900 square feet directly on the setback lines of my house and the neighbor's house, and adds 900 square feet or close to 15,000 cubic feet of mass right on the setback lines. And our feeling is that we've already been subject to a out of character, oversized edifice that is facing our house, which we have no visual relief from, no screening, no nothing. And this would add additional mass all in one corner of a 2-acre property. So 2 acres to move around on, and everything is being put high and close to and/or close to my property line. So I would ask that the architect and the board perhaps explore alternative locations. Perhaps 3-car garage is not necessary, and a 2-car or smaller or something different could be proposed. And also, I heard earlier about getting a site view from neighbor property, and I'd like to suggest that the board require that so I can understand prior to approval what the impact will be of adding this structure directly on the setback line of my rear yard. So those are the salient points. It's about mass, it's about scale, out of character with the neighborhood, and then adding another 900 square feet of footprint and significant mass, again, all shoehorned kind of in one side of the property. So alternative site, smaller size, understand my view shed and see if there are mitigations, make sure the water runoff is taken care of. Those are the points I tried to hit quickly in the letter, and I'd appreciate the board's thorough review and consideration of those issues.
Well, mass and is usually covered by the FAR calculations and by coverage. So if they meet those, that's as George said, that there's no variances necessary. And
Yeah, that's
I
understood.
do appreciate your suggestion, and I'll ask the consultant that if we could get a rendering of how this looks compared, a panoramic, a driveway look at the garage and the neighbor's house, and how the existing house, garage, and neighbor all look from a couple of points, so that we can see how it all fits or doesn't fit. So if you can show since I can't say street level, from the garage, from the driveway back into the garage, and how this garage looks, in relation to the current house and the neighbor's house, and so we can get an idea. And of course, there's side yard setbacks that are that need to be complied with, and if they comply with it, that's fine. But before we look at moving the thing, we would like to see how it looks in the existing setting. Now, in terms of the current house, I mean, you mentioned something about height. I'm sure, that the house is not here under review. The garage is, and Ed indicates that the house went through a lengthy review. So I'm not sure that's before us. It's just the garage. Any comment? Does the applicant wish to to speak of what he just heard from the neighbor?
Yeah, just two things. One of the reasons why we cited the garage, where we cited it, is actually to the, I'm going to call it the west of the house. If you see my site plan, there's a large open area. So that area is where my septic and my 100% expansion area is. So I couldn't build on that. Going down behind the house, there's an area that says ledge rock. That's where my stormwater for the house is. So the only really other place I could cite this would be as I come up the driveway where I have the official watershed line. So as I'm coming up the driveway, it would be to the right. And I thought that felt that would have been too imposing on the neighbor. So instead we tried to tuck it towards the rear of, or the side of our property. So we thought we were kind of doing a good thing where we cited it.
If you could put that on a plan or on a presentation in some kind of, put a little boxes where you thought you might have done it and eliminated it for whatever reason, like alternate 1, 2, 3, and then describe what it would
Provide
be.
alternates on one page.
Yeah, and then describe why each.
Give a
alternate-
narrative of why
it can't be done.
you think it doesn't fit there.
Okay.
And the narrative as to why it was chosen to where it is. And in addition, you would like to see how it relates in height and bulk to the existing house and the neighbor and any other neighbor. When I went up there, there's 3 addresses on the tree, or so there must be a third house somewhere. If there's 3 addresses, if I'm wrong, you can correct me.
No, it's only the two, Cesar.
Okay.
202 and 204. The other neighbor is to the north.
Yeah, because I saw
to the
3
north.
addresses on the tree. So
Yeah.
okay.
Hey, I have a couple more comments and then I'll close. Can you hear?
Okay, John.
Yeah, so there is, to the point of where it's cited today, there's a natural berm in between the site of the proposed garage and my property line. It might be a consideration to enhance that berm with some additional fill and look at potential plantings there. And the plantings would be good since we did lose a 50-inch oak, historic oak on the property from the original building, and about a 35-inch tulip that were both killed by the prior development and have since been taken down. And I believe there were a couple of compensatory maple trees planted, if that's what they were there for, and one has failed. So there's significant tree damage that was done. So it would feel natural to me to if we review the view shed impact to my house, that some of that compensatory planting of the trees that were destroyed would go in between me and the proposed building.
Well, we're asking for a tree replanting proposal, so I'm sure the location can be worked out to the best interest of yourself and the applicant, looking at screening for the garage.
I look forward to
Okay.
seeing that.
David,
One last point, I have a question. I've been very bothered by the lighting on the front of that building for some time. Where do I go to resolve whether that meets code or not?
There wasn't a code when it was put in. The new code is only for proposed lighting.
Only for what?
Proposed lighting.
Okay, so if it's glaring into my bedroom window,
It's a civil matter between you and them.
I'll have the owner look at that.
yeah, if you would, I'd appreciate that, David. And please do. I think it's a minor fix if they could be directed down instead of directly at my house. I've asked the neighbor multiple times, but without resolve. So if you could help with that, that would be great.
Yeah, no problem.
And David, I'm sure the garage has some lighting that, to light up the garage door or what have you, and you realize.
I'll indicate all that. I'll get photometrics on that as well for the next submission.
Yes, dark sky compliant if there's any new lights on that garage.
Okay.
And the tree planting and shrubs, you need to do it anyway, so you might as well do it in a spot that'll do some good for the neighbor.
Certainly, certainly.
Any comment from the board? Dan,
I'm good, Caesar, I'm fine. No comment.
George,
Nope.
Kevin?
No.
And we asked once for the public. I'm not sure if there's another public out there. Sarah?
Nobody's raising their hand.
Okay, David, we'll see you next time. Oh, and when you come back, you make it clear that you're addressing the issues in the cover letter and where we can find them, so we don't have to hunt for them.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Jonathan, for your comments.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, that was number 8. Moving on to number 9, 2020. Number 20, a lot of 20s. 9 Stearns Ridge.
And start the video. And I think you can see me and hear me.
Yes, we can.
That's a good start for this one. Okay, and I'm going to share my screen. If I can figure out which one is which. And I'm going to start the slideshow from the beginning and see how it works. This is 9 Stearns Ridge, which is the last lot that has not been developed on Stearns Ridge. It's at the far end at the cul-de-sac. This is just a list that you should have gotten in your packet of the people who are involved in it. And Sarah, if you can, Laura Wakefield should be on this. And Ubada should also be from Hudson Engineering. This is the survey. Here's the this cul-de-sac. The Benaya's house is over here. And this is a piece of property which was always steep, but actually got steeper when the cul-de-sac was built, because this area in here was actually, this is all fill. This also is what's known as the quarry site. When the Stearns owned this property, they had really interesting stone buildings, and this is where they got the stone from it. One of the requirements with Dearman Park was the open quarry had to be filled in, which it was. So here's where we're starting our drawings, nothing interesting notes. This is also just the same as the survey. Here's where we're showing the trees that we're anticipating taking down. There are 10 trees in the relatively limited building envelope that was approved with the limited site plan approval. I've got more information on that in a second. So here's our site plan. Our concept is we've got the house here at 7 Stearns, the house here at 11 Stearns. They're effectively at a right angle to each other. So our intent was to bend the corner, filling in this hole, with the understanding we have a limited site frontage here. So instead of running the house this way or this way, which certainly wouldn't have worked, we're basically making it more of a square with the garage sitting off to the side. There are specific concerns that both neighbors have expressed, and I have gotten correspondence from both neighbors that we have not satisfied their concerns at this point. So that's something that we'll be continuing to work on. The major issues for the owners of 11 is they've got 2 windows here on this side of the house. I've got photos I'll show in a minute. And their expectation was that nothing would be built on this site to the north of the front of their house. So they're looking at this, that we're, that we're blocking them. But I'll kind of show where we're at with it. This whole part of the house is 1 story, and it starts down significantly below this house. So that was intentional on our part. This is the Benaya's house. Bart has a row of windows along here, and he's concerned with what he's going to see. His biggest concern is that we've got a stair tower here with some good sized windows in it. And he's concerned that that's going to provide light glare and adversely affect him. So we're taking more of a look at that. This green area is when we get to the landscaping plan, We're anticipating that we're going to have to augment it fairly generously to make sure that this is not a problem for the neighbors. This blue arrow just shows how we're looking at the site, that we're orienting this to the cul-de-sac. So when you're here, you'll feel like you're not sliding into the house, it's fronting out towards the street. These are all of our floor area calculations, site coverage. The most significant in here, we're compliant with everything in coverage. We're under in site coverage, we're under in FAR. We are not under in height. In fact, because of the way this site works, we're going to need a variance to build on this site. But I'll go into detail on that in a minute. There are two height requirements on this house. One is we're limited to 35 feet from the average grade to the top of the house. We're allowed to use average grade here because the grade within the footprint of the house exceeds 15%. It actually ranges between 25 and 30%. So we're at 45.3 where we're permitted 35. The other measurement that we have to comply with is the fact that measuring to the lowest point of existing grade to the highest point of the roof where we're permitted 40, we're at 51.4. So both of those are significant. We also have the way we've worked out the house is we have not put as big a roof as we can on the house because we would make those numbers worse. So the way it works with the grade plane is you're supposed to have no less than 80% of your roof at a 5 and 12 or greater. And we've got an area that's up on the roof that you can't see that pushes us down to 69.85% of the roof is 5 and 12 or more. So that will also be something we need to deal with. I saw in Han's comments an issue of concern with that this was 3 stories. I think when we provide the documentation on where we are with the house in the ground, I think we will be compliant with the 2.5-story limit. But that's something that we still have to provide, to the village. We've got notes on the drawings that pertain to these variances explaining what they are, but I don't think that's what we want to spend time tonight. We're going to have to deal with that. And of course, zoning board on this one is going to be key to what we're able to do. Details I don't think we need to spend time on. So we've got some photos here just to kind of acclimate you so we can kind of explain what we're dealing with. This is the area up on the cul-de-sac. This is the 7 Stearns Ridge House. This is the 11 Stearns Ridge House. Those are the two that are right angle to one another. And this is looking at the site. This whole area that's green up on the top, this is about 15 feet of fill that was put in when the cul-de-sac is actually in an area that used to slope from the east side to the west side dramatically. And we did a cut and fill to create that cul-de-sac, but that exacerbates the heights issue on this site.
And that was it's demonstrated by the temporary grading easement that was in the front.
Yeah. So this is I'm on the property looking back at 7 Stearns. You can see how the property starts dropping down very quickly. You can see that there's some landscaping on their property that provides them with some privacy. But for example, in this view here, these pines are not sufficient to do that. So we're anticipating that we're going to need to put material in here that'll mean that's the kitchen and family room, that they don't lose their privacy. And we've had conversations with them. But as I said, we are not at the point where they would say, yes, you're doing great. We're still at the point where they're saying, you're going to have to do a lot better. This is looking over at 11 Stearns, where basically this is that wall. We've positioned it so that the garage doesn't go in front of these windows, but it is close. And as I mentioned, the owner would prefer that we were not building anything past the front of his house. But with the limitations of the site, that's very difficult to accomplish. Actually, one other thing, I think maybe it shows better on this one. All of these properties, all of the properties on Stearns Ridge, with the exception of 2 Stearns Ridge, they were basically leveled out by the construction of fairly substantial retaining walls. That was built at the same time, or three of them were built at the same time that the road was built. That's where a lot of the rock went. This one on lot 11 was built later, but this grade used to wrap around. That was raised there. If I go to the next one, you're seeing this is the retaining wall that's behind 7 Stearns. This is about 8 to 9 feet at that corner. And when you right here, actually where I'm standing, taking this photograph, I'm standing just about on the conservation easement line. And I noticed one of the concerns that Han has is that we put a fence up that prevents anybody from erroneously going down into that area. I think we need to put that fence up to keep anybody from dying as they fall down that hillside, because it's a drop. This is another view of that. You drop about 20 feet off the edge of this rock. So we're going to need to put something up that's substantial and really, makes it safe, as well as keeps people out of the conservation easement. So those are the photos of it. These are floor plans of the house. I don't think we need to go into it. It's a fairly simple house. It's 3 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. And I've got some calculations in a second that show how it fits in terms of size with its neighbors. But here are the elevations. These are the windows that the Benayases are, saying that they do not want. We thought this was kind of fun, wonderful view out towards the river. Their concern is that if this is lit up at night, it's going to be like a beacon shining in their house. I think the rotation helps some of that, but it doesn't solve all of it. And we may need to look at slightly twisting the house more. So we just, a combination of reducing the amount of glass, the orientation and the planning, we obviate that problem for them. These are 3 sections showing how the site fits in, house fits into the site. I've got a detail on that in a minute. This is just showing that this house is actually, the 2-story portion of this house is relatively small. This is 41 feet from this edge to the far edge. And everything on this site, which is the one that's closest to the 11 Stearns property, is 1 story in height. It's the garage and the mudroom entrance. This is a section that's showing the house built on the site. This is the 390 elevation of the cul-de-sac and how it slopes down, consistently from there. And what we're measuring for that height is the bottom of the footing for the porch. That's the piece of the house that's furthest down the slope, and that's at 367.82. So if we go up to the roof, which is at 418.86, that's what's 51.04 feet. What is worth noting is that when you compare it to the heights up on the top, it's not as though this is a dramatically tall house from what you're seeing, as you're up on the cul-de-sac. But I've got a drawing that can show that a little bit better. This one. So what we did here, this is the extent of Stearns Ridge, with the exception that there's another house down here at 2 Stearns. So we've got the Davidowitz house, the Ziff house, the Benayases house, and the house that we're proposing, and then 11 Stearns. And what we did is we showed, this is all, this is accurately relative house to house. There's no adjustment in this. So these are the actual ridges of those 4 houses along the street, noting where our floor plans are, our floor level is, how it kind of fits in. And then down here, we're doing the opposite side of the houses. This is Davidowitz, which is the one closest down to where we come into Dearman Park. And this is the Ziff house, the Benayes house, and then the proposed house. We're, kind of just as a sense of how these compare, we took the ridge from here. That's a little bit taller than the ridge we're proposing. And the ridge that we're proposing here is just a little bit taller than Bard's. And then again, Ziff steps down and Davidowitz steps down further as it goes down the street. These are the widths of the houses facing the street, which just is to reinforce that this house is actually not that large a house compared to its neighbors, at least. This is just.
Dan, I want to interrupt you for a second there. Go back to that previous slide. This is the top 4 structures, the second from the right being the one proposed.
Correct.
Is that what one would see from the cul-de-sac?
It
If you were
is,
standing in the cul-de-sac, that's a accurate rendition of what one would see.
it's a drawing that takes a house that's got a bend in it. And so that we're fairly showing the mass of it, we've flattened that out. So if I actually drew this accurately, what happened, this garage rotates in, but then we've got the weirdness of how do we show where the setback is to the property line. So these setbacks of the house to the property line are accurate for the fact that we're on a curve. And we can show you that elevation.
If we're standing in the cul-de-sac, that's an accurate representation of height. If
Correct.
one is standing and looking at the four houses.
That's correct.
Okay, move on.
Okay. So what we did here is just a comparison of the properties that are along, Stearns Ridge, starting with 2, going up to 11. That's the 6 houses that are on that street. Our lot, 9 Stearns Ridge is actually the largest of the parcels at 36,155. They get as small as 20,038. These are the size of the houses that were built on those lots. They range from 48 down to 4,200. We're proposing 3847. These are the widths again. We're at 41, where one house is as wide as 80. I think they all work really nice. I think they're very nice houses. This is more of a factor of our clients' needs and desires. And I think it's the right way to approach this lot. Somebody who wanted a very large house on this lot would be fighting this harder. So I think it's good that the person who bought this is looking for a smaller house. That 3847 also includes the square footage. This is first floor and second floor, but including the square footage that sloughs over from the garage. We're allowed a deduction on it, but not all of it. So here's the ridge heights, and we're right now what we're showing is at 417.5. That's a little bit lower than the number that's on the drawing that we submitted. We're trying to find ways of getting it down further. What I'd really like to do is have it where our ridge was the exact same as the Beneas house. Get it down to the 417. And then our first floor elevation, we are actually a little bit lower than than Bard's house with the first floor. We're trying to tuck it down as much as we can. And then the basement floors. After this, it's basically, here's the landscaping plan showing the 10 trees that are coming down. This area looks pretty good and lots of material shown, but I think we're going to need to, add more to that, and particularly material that does not lose its leaves. This tree would not lose its leaves, but I think we can put some more material in here so that it augments with the trees that Bard and Barbara have along here, so that this becomes more densely, planted and less of an intrusion to them. We're trying to, if we're taking 10 trees down, we're trying to replace the value of those trees. We show some decent sized trees here, some decent sized trees here, and then more in this back corner. I think Susan Janchil, who's the landscape architect on this, has done a good job of, giving us a good array of trees that will offset the loss. But we're still going to be taking down some, fairly substantial trees. I'm not sure whether or not it's a concern. I know that this neighbor at 11 Stearns is very concerned with this structure, this one-story structure that he's looking out to. So I'm a little concerned that this might also be a problem. So we'll be discussing that with them and seeing if they have an objection to this. If they do, I've got to try and find a way of getting, planting more trees up to offset what we're losing. This is Hudson Engineering's drawings. This shows those 10 trees being removed. And then his drawing that shows the limits of disturbance, the storm drainage, the anti-tracking pad, all of the stuff that the engineers do. And this is their details on all of that stuff. And that's pretty much what we have now, and they did the drainage plan. So that's what we have for tonight. And then looking for your comments and concepts of what we need to do better on.
Well, my first impression when I opened this up, my immediate first impression was, boy, is that high. So your comment and not dramatically really tall, and I quoted you, wrote it down. I don't see how you don't look at it that way. The height is dramatically high when you look at it. And as George said on a previous application, getting a height variance on a brand new house, especially a significant height variance, is problematic. And you did see that the one I questioned you and interrupted you, while it appears that it's not significantly higher, when you walk up and look down at it, it's a rather tall building. And I'd like to see what it looks like from Riverview Road when you look up, if you can
Sure.
see it through the, I think it's 66 Riverview when we looked, the address. We'd like to see what it looks like. I don't even know if you can see it through the easement.
It's the time of year. This time of year, we'd be able to say, oh, it's beautifully screened by all those leaves, but those leaves all fall off. And in December and January, you can see this from the school parking lot.
Well, it may look like Fort Ticonderoga when you look up at the retaining walls from Riverview.
Yeah, I'd like to try and get rid of the lower retaining wall. I just don't know if it's something that we can do.
And you said coverage and FAR were okay. I don't know. I had a question on that. Ed, is coverage and FAR okay?
Yeah. There's some pluses and minuses in the application that we would like some detail on, but it's also the pluses and minuses and the setbacks we're a little bothered by, because you're pretty close to the number, Patty. So we'd like to have a better breakdown of that and not see so many pluses and minuses on the site plan application.
I don't think we have any minuses, do we?
You have plus or minus, like
Okay.
it says the setback is 15 and you have plus or minus 15.2. I mean.
Right. That's
we like something
much
specific and not
minus
a
than that.
range.
Yeah, I'll correct that. It's, but I probably
Well,
told
don't
them.
take off the plus or minus, get it accurate.
Yeah, well, it is accurate. And what we're going to,
Well, plus or minus isn't accurate.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And we'll change that. So we'll have the exact number. We are trying to get the house, as you can see in this drawing. Obviously we need to handle the cars. They would like to have the ability. This cul-de-sac is one of the greatest children's playground areas I think I've seen in Irvington. There are a lot of families up here with kids, and they all come over to this cul-de-sac to play. And so they set up little fences and stuff. So one of the things that the Kimbers, who also have little kids, are really attentive to is they want to be able to back out of their garage and then pull out front-wise instead of having a garage say that they would back into the cul-de-sac. And I think that's actually a very good idea with how intensive
Well, Patty, my next comment was there's too much driveway. You're backing out onto a dead-end street.
Yeah, but I think be up there on a Saturday and see the 20 kids playing. I think we can probably cut this back, and that's something we've already tried to, we're already looking at. So we'll try and reduce that as much as possible. The other thing we can talk about doing is using, as we did with, I think Bard's house, we have the pervious pavers. So I think that would be a good idea here, just so that we're putting as much of the water into the ground as we can. The biggest concern I have with trying, we could alleviate some of the issues if we went further this way, because this is where it drops the fastest. But we are trying to respect that concern of this neighbor who feels that, he's even questioned if we're allowed to build behind the front of his house. I don't know exactly how that worked, but I'm sure he'll explain himself on it. I do know that the original limited site plan showed rectangles for houses, which, you know, you guys have made really clear to me over the years that I'm not allowed to rely upon the information that's on those, because we have heights, we have a lot of stuff that would be very convenient to say, well, we got this approval for a very tall building. But we understand that this has to be each one done, and the laws have changed since 2002. So, you know, we have to follow the rules that are in play now. I think one of the things just graphically, Caesar, that I think affects that visibility, you know, the visual that it's tall, because obviously if we're shorter than this house and the same size as that house, we're not taller. It's that we're talking about a standing seam roof, which emphasizes that vertical. We're looking at verticality in the windows. These are things that the client has done. They researched what they wanted for years and gave us a very nice organized concept of the kind of house they were looking for. So we're obviously, you know, affected by that. The eave on the front of the house is actually this line here. So there's an effort being made that, okay, we have one element that's relatively tall at the corner. It steps down to the eave here. It then steps down to the eaves here, and this is one story. So there is an effort, perhaps we're not there yet, but there's an effort being made to have this not feel like it's a tall house at the end of the street.
Yeah, but when you look at the house from the neighbor's backyard, either one of the neighbors, and you look at the house, it's a tremendously tall building, and you look at it from the side.
From which house?
Either one.
I mean, in this house, they've actually got their yard is close to the eave on our garage. You know, the grade comes across here. They actually.
Well, we'd like to see it rendered, what it looks like from that house to the proposed house.
Right.
Either way, from each house on either side, we'd like to see what it looks like.
Yep.
When looking from either side to your house.
Yep.
To your proposed house. And of course, you're going to do dark sky compliant. And having just completed a previous project, we spent a lot of time on tree protection and replacement. So we'd like to see in detail those kind of things. You should be familiar with what Susan Nolan wants.
Yeah.
Not specifically for this, but you know the background of your previous project on tree protection and replacement.
Right. The concern I have is, you know, this envelope is actually fairly limited. So it's something, you know, how many trees can we fit in? So one of the things we're looking at is, you know, is it possible for us to plant other trees up here that would be beneficial to the whole HOA? That would be a real positive contribution instead of overplanting in one corner or something.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. I'm sure Suzanne Nolan will agree with you if there's an overplanting issue. But we would like to see that. As you well know, it is a major point. Other than the height, it is a major point.
Yep.
Okay. And you heard me about the view from Riverview.
Right.
And let me ask, is there any comment from the board? Dan?
Yeah, the glass blocks, what are the dimensions of the width? And it goes up 3 stories of the glass blocks?
This one?
Yes.
So what is it you're asking?
Well, the actual width of the glass blocks, where the neighbors saying the glass blocks would sort of dominate their view, or the light.
We don't have any glass blocks. That's probably what's.
Okay. Oh, the actual.
If I go to this elevation, nope, here, this is actually facing the high school, because we've positioned the house at a 45 to the neighbor, which I think in and of itself is a pretty good gesture for reducing that feeling like you're looking out a window and looking into somebody else's house.
So that faces the school.
Yeah, so this faces down the hill. What Bard and Barbara commented in a very nice way, they said, we have no problem with what you did down at Davidowitz. We think that glass corner is very interesting, but it's like a light show at night, because when you're in the parking lot at the school, if they've got their lights on in that stair, you can see that through the woods. And while they don't have any problem with that down the street from them, they would not want to have that next to them. So I think their concern is that we've got just too much glass. And even if it's facing away from them, it'll still be something that emits a lot of light. So we're looking at cutting back on the glass and seeing what we can do with it.
Okay, thank you.
George?
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions, or not even questions, just statements, actually. One is that, like Caesar said, I have a hard time allowing for a variance on new construction. I mean, the whole role of zoning is for someone to follow those, to see what the constraints are, and to work within those constraints. That is the spirit of what the zoning is. And second of all, it really has to do with specifically the one that you're asking relief from. And I have to believe that the people that came up with this, really their intention was to basically not allow exactly what you're doing, which is when there is a steep slope, you can see on this elevation, your west elevation is absolutely massive compared to your east elevation. And the spirit of this whole keeping the height, now go back, please. Thank you. And the whole spirit of it is to not have this to happen. So no, I am going to tell you that, no, I don't think that I'm going to be that supportive of the idea of making it so that you can get this 50-foot variance, basically because you have a site that does slope down. And again, I think the reason that they came up with this is when there are sites like this, that massively tall, out of scale projects aren't built. So I'm at a loss about why you would even propose this. And second of all, if you go back to the elevations, which I thought were quite good about the other buildings, the other properties. Yeah, you can see like this is going to be one of the more visible ones from Riverview Road and from the high school. And, you know, I always had, as you know, problems with all the stone walls that were being built previously. This one is on steroids. And you even mentioned that yourself, that the lower one is a little bit cumbersome. So I think you have some serious kind of redesigning to do on this project to make it acceptable for the village, because a lot of these properties, especially if you go up at the school in the fall to the winter, they're incredibly visible. And I think it's time that we find a way to make it a little bit more palatable for the view shed from the school. So no, I will not, I'm not that, you know, interested in you going beyond whatever the code is for the height. And I think it shows itself quite well of why my concerns are. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, that was my original impression too, but you know, since if that's, I'm at least willing to take a look at some of these renderings, but as I said in the beginning, Patty, my first impression when I opened this thing up, the very first impression was, my God, is that thing tall. All right, Kevin. Kevin, you still with us?
Well, I think his service was going in and out. Kevin, you're on mute if you're there. There you go.
I think I'm back. I apologize.
Yeah, you're back.
I'm having difficult internet. My only comment, just in case you can hear me, there are some members of the public that are entering comments on the chat. So we might want to just acknowledge those.
We will when the time comes, but I'm asking for your input.
Okay. Okay, I don't have anything to add to things that have already been said. So I'm not going to say anything further.
Okay. All right, Sarah. You have members of the public that are interested in commenting? One at a time.
Nobody's raised their hand, but as mentioned before, there is several comments in the chat and in the question and answer section.
And
we do have somebody with a several people raising their hands now.
Okay. One at a time.
Okay.
Why don't you eliminate the split screen now?
I take the, Stop.
I allowed Alan Gersh to speak.
Yep, Sarah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so Patty, actually leave that up if you don't mind.
Sure.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So a couple of things. I was going to say a lot more.
Excuse me, could you identify yourself, please?
Sure.
and your
This is
question?
Alan. Certainly. I'm Alan Gershkovich. I'm at 11 Stearns Ridge, the house to the right of this one.
Okay, thank you.
His house right there.
Thank you. And Caesar, can you hear me well?
Yes, I can.
Good. So in short, frankly, I agree with George. I think George said it with the highest synopsis. I agree with the rest of the board as well. And frankly, you know, all the other homes were built in a conforming manner without the variances. I'm not sure how many ways we're trying to pretend that this is not a tall house, but it is. So it is. And bottom line, it is. So any other deviation from that word is simply misrepresentation. You know, I'm going to be, and that's it. So I don't want to get into it. The board kind of made it very clear. I have been discussing this with Patty since June. So I know that it sounds like it's been a very simple and happy conversation, but it hasn't. And unfortunately, it has led to a lot of runaround and frustration, which has led us to be at this meeting because there's a misrepresentation of the way that I am discussing this. I made it very, very clear from the beginning. It was my first question. After 52 emails, the truth kind of came out. So I agree with the board is my bottom line summary here. And I certainly object to the height. There's a conforming house for a conforming lot, and I would like to see that as the first and primary objective.
Okay, thank you. You got anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. We hear you, and as you heard from us, there's at least two of us who think it's very tall, and there's a big concern about seeking variances for a new house that you did no hardship to do it. Okay, thank you. Sarah, you have to sign yourself out so we can bring another public in. Sarah?
Yes, the next applicant should be, I'm sorry, the next attendee should be able to speak. Bard Bonis.
Yep, Barbara and I live at 7 Stearns Ridge. The house just to the left of the house you're looking at. What we're most concerned about is that 30
I
foot.
heard two voices. Is there two people there?
Nope.
Okay, I thought I heard two. Thank you.
Sorry if not. That's my accent, I'm afraid. That 30-foot light wall is going to be very evident from our house. And, you know, it's light pollution, it's glare. And we have talked to Patty about it, and he seems willing to change it. So I'll just leave it at that. And we'll see what the next chapter in that light tower is. And thank you for listening to me.
Thank you for joining us. Could you, if you sign off, then we can go to another public if there is one.
There was another comment that was put in the question and answer section. Oh.
Can you read it?
It's from an anonymous attendee. The comment is, I don't think everyone understands how building plans get approved. Perhaps the board can explain that plans are meant to go to a board for comments and the homeowner and architect not have to go out of their way to send and respond to emails constantly.
Say that again.
Yeah.
Sarah, say it again. I'm not sure I understood it.
Oh, can you look into the question and answer section? There should be on the bottom.
On your screen. On the bottom, press the question and answer button.
Oh, the Q.
Q&A.
I don't see it. All I have is all the pictures of people.
Go to the top where it says view options
Leave. To the
Oh,
left.
view options. Do.
and then exit full screen.
I
You'll
don't
be able to
have
see 'em on
view
the
options.
bottom.
I don't see view options. Oh, stop video, share. Switch camera.
Yeah. If I'm understanding their comment, I think it would be quasi in defense of us, but I have no problem having communication with the neighbors, and we're trying to work it out with them. They have a lot to say about this, and I've known Bard since we did his house, and I'm gonna do everything I can in the world to make Bard happy with what we're doing. You know, for a lot of reasons, a lot of good reasons.
Well, I'm certain there's going to be communication between neighbors to a project.
Sure.
But as you can see, whoever that was, that we will be reviewing this very comprehensively, and we incorporate comments into our review. And we also, if you were listening to some of the previous presentations, that we incorporated a couple of letters and a couple of emails into our review. And so I wasn't really clear on the statement. It sounded like there was some confusion about multitude emails and letters going back and forth. That may be between yourself and the developer. But so far, we had a couple of letters or emails, I should say, from the two neighbors, which we addressed, and they were here to speak. And we'll move on. And if there are other emails that come to the planning board, we'll look at them and have an opportunity to see what the concern was in that email and move on. Right now, there's a major concern on height. Like I said, my opening statement, the impression I got at the minute I opened this thing was height. And George expressed it very well. He does a good job at articulation of concerns. That's the architect. I'm an engineer, so he articulates better. We're going to be looking at the view from Riverview because as I'm looking at it from just the diagram, like I said, it looks like Fort Ticonderoga up there.
Right.
And we're going to look at the coverage and the FAR. And as far as glow, I mean, obviously there's a concern. If there's exterior lighting, it has to be dark sky compliant. But if there's a wall of glass and the interior lights are on, that could be an issue that's not covered by dark sky compliant, and it is an issue.
It should still be addressed and made sure that
Of course.
Yeah. So I do have one question, which is the other anonymous attendee, where they beg to differ regarding the view of the homes from the school. Everyone always compliments the homes. We live in the suburbs, and of course, there are houses all over. Duh. That duh was there, not mine. The question I guess I have, but specifically given what George had said, and a little bit also what Alan said, when I look at this west elevation, we're handling this similarly to how all the other houses were handled, which is the fact that they're going down the slope and you get the basement exposed. I saw that the mayor commented that couldn't we eliminate the walkout basement and save excavation and rock removal. Our walkout basement is what's 10 feet above grade. We're the only place we're actually digging is where these footings come down. We're basically filling on top of this, to kind of work down this steep slope. So I don't think there should be an objection to the idea of there being a walkout basement, or that this can be similar to all the other houses faced along that ridge, and even the one on lot 2, or I guess it's lot 1, 2 Stearns Ridge, that also has the ability to do that, as does actually almost I think maybe every house with the exception of 2 in Dearman Park has that opportunity.
All right, we have two more to go and it's 9:30.
Yeah.
These are just quickly, there's another question on there. They just wanted to know whether there was going to be rock chipping or blasting.
No,
Okay.
there will not be. It's,
Okay, that's the answer. No, okay.
I gave it. I stopped.
Since there might be rock in the area and it's on a steep hill, Bill from Han, what about the drainage and the taking care? I mean, there's going to be a lot of water on that driveway, and where is it going to go? Is there a system design that's going to work on that slope?
Ubada, are you there?
Yeah, our comment letter lists a lot of concerns with the drainage plan. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Our comment letter lists a lot of.
Yep.
You've got Will Angelo here from Han Engineering speaking.
Go ahead.
Our comment memo lists a lot of issues with the drainage. Patty and his engineer will have to go through them and address them.
Okay, not a problem.
We don't want a waterfall down to Riverview Road in the backyards back there. All right, hey, Sarah, is there any other public, any chat room stuff?
There is another comment from an anonymous attendee. I'm trying to copy and paste the comment now into the chat.
Well, they really should, I think we got to take a position on anonymous, right? I mean, when you come to a meeting, you have to identify yourself.
Well, we'll give it the weight.
We should think about that.
Well, tonight we'll give it the weight of versus a real person. We'll give it the kind of weight that comes from an anonymous. But we'll listen to it.
Yeah.
I posted the comment in the chat section.
I don't know how to do that. Somebody's going to have to read it to me.
This one about the project is massive, that one, Sarah?
Yes, that's the most current.
Where it says, this project is massive. I respect the concerns of the immediate neighbors of Stearns Ridge, but my concern is the problems presented by this project for those on Riverview. Previous projects on Stearns Ridge have resulted in extended noise from retaining wall construction and water redirection that is likely cause of flooding.
Okay, well, we just discussed the water issue going downhill.
Yep.
In terms of how massive, the building code, the FAR, the floor area ratio, the McMansion code takes care of mass, and FAR, the floor area ratio it does address the massiveness of a projected building. Anyway, thank you for reading that, Mary Ann. Anything else out there, Sarah? Hello.
That was the last comment, and nobody else is raising their hand to speak.
All right. Any further comment from Mary Ann? You have anything? I never include you when I ask.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything on this one.
Dan?
I'm all set there, Caesar. Thank you.
Kevin?
No, Caesar, thank you.
George? Hello,
Yes.
George.
Yes.
You got anything further than your original
No, I think
commentary?
that's a starting point that I think that this whole thing has to be readdressed.
The height is a limiting factor, is a deal breaker as far as I'm listening to you.
Yes, that's my opinion.
And Patty, you should take that to heart, that we're looking at a deal breaker here. Patty?
I heard. You told me not to talk before, so I didn't. I heard
All right,
it.
I think we're done with this. Thank you, Patty. You got a lot of work to do.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Don't forget to sign off.
I'm doing that now.
We're moving on to number 10, 2020-19. Valensez, 45 Station Road.
Hello. John Malone, Ferguson Malone Architecture, representing the Valensises. This project is for the addition of a partial third level, which is being added to the house to provide a master suite. The house currently is a raised ranch, so not a split level, but a raised ranch. It has 2 basement bedrooms and then small upper level bed, ground level base bedrooms. And the goal is to have a true master suite. This is sort of a house that was built in the time, early 80s, with sort of smaller rooms with shared bathrooms. Our goal is to try to get this done within the existing height limitation. So I see that we did get one note from Han that we're above the 35 feet. The variance that we do know that we would have to request is because based on the way that stories are determined, this portion of it would be a 3rd story and not 2.5 stories. So we've provided a neighborhood analysis that sort of shows the condition typically around the neighborhood. There's a lot of examples of buildings that are greater than 2.5 stories there. The reason a lot of them are that case is the slope lot and its location along Barney Brook. The 3rd level that we're adding is not the full portion of the building, and we are under the allowable FAR. So our goal was to stay under the allowable FAR, under the height, and that was our intent here. We can look at I see, Ed, that you have a note, or Han had a note that we are over. We can take a look at that. I'm seeing it right now. It actually says 35 and 3 inches. We can bring it down to manage that. Excuse me. It's not Corona. It's just dust. Sorry. One of the things, I don't know if you guys want to talk more about the general design, but I think one of the things that was identified to us is that some of the coverage that's on the site is not documented. So our understanding was that the building had a C of O and that work was done 10 years ago and it was documented. Ed showed us the drawing that it's not documented. We're working with the same engineer, Paul Petretti, who put together that initial project. He may be able to give us some explanation of that. But the coverage that's on site now is over, and if we're going to go for other variances, we would go for that variance as well. We don't think the coverage is out of line with what's in the neighborhood, and the coverage that is driving it is all on grade, so it's not about building mass. We're hoping that impact is minimal. I'm trying to think what else. The other big piece of this that I see from the notes from Han is how to treat the stormwater. So that the project that Petretti did and the owners did about 10 years ago was involved with managing the roof stormwater and the runoff from the site. What they installed was a series of retaining walls with a level spreader device between those walls, with the intent of taking that roof water, slowing it down, allowing maybe some of it to infiltrate between those 2 walls, and basically slowing down and limiting the erosion of the bank to Barney Brook. My understanding from Paul is that the location of the house is such that it doesn't make sense to infiltrate, because you basically put it in the ground, it comes out the side of the hillside, leads to erosion, and drops into Barney Brook anyway, so it's not a good location for infiltration. If William is here, I would just want to make sure that we direct Paul, because I see you're saying that you're treating the addition as new impervious, and it's the same footprint. The footprint of the house is not changing. So I think there's additional impervious that may not have been in his calculations based on the undocumented patio to the one side. But I just think strategically, are we asking Paul to do something to incorporate anything else, infiltration or some other strategy, or is the strategy appropriate that he's told us, which is basically try to slow it down. It's going to end up in the brook no matter how we do it. We just want to do it in a way that doesn't cause erosion and doesn't cause other problems. I guess that's a question for William if he's able to answer that.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't have, obviously I didn't review it last time. Let me speak with Doug, see what was previously designed. I don't know when we reviewed these plans if it showed any of the previous stormwater piping or any of that sort of stuff.
Okay.
We'll talk about it offline, I think.
Okay.
Hey, John.
John,
Yeah.
one of the first things you need to address is the previous undocumented work. The additions should be really part of this application as if.
Yeah, so we can
You need
treat
to
them.
add that as part of the application.
Yeah, based on what Ed sent us something on Monday or Tuesday, showing the last documented site plan that the village has on. So with that, we can identify any variances from that, and we'll treat that as new construction.
Yeah, that'll be part of any coverage calculation.
Right, it already is. It already is part of the coverage calculation, but we'll treat it as new as opposed to existing.
Yeah, so John, I think the conversation at the pre-meeting was more, we want to make sure that we understand what the rain garden can hold.
Right.
So that it can continue to hold the new FAR, not coverage, but then we have the hiccup of the undocumented coverage that may have to be added to it.
Right.
So I think that was more where the conversation was going. We had the pre-meeting, no excuses. We had the pre-meeting late, and then we had no internet this morning to send it out. So
you guys Optimum?
I don't know what we use. It's the
that's what I
county
have.
server, so it worked. Then it didn't work
Seems
today.
like the entire world was out if they had Optimum.
No, we had okay service from like 2 o'clock to 4:30, and then it started fading in and out again.
Right.
And I was going to mention let's document the rain garden, but it sounds like Ed covered that, and so did Bill.
That was basically how the meeting went, Caesar.
Yeah. Now, one of the big things, excuse me, to look at is the view preservation. I think if I recall, you said there's about a 4-inch or 3-inch height issue that maybe need a variance, or you may make it
I
shorter.
think we're not going to go for variances. We're going to drop it.
You can fix
Okay,
that.
but there's still the view preservation issue for the house that's further uphill. I think you raised it somewhere in the range of 8 feet or so. So we need to see what that looks like from the neighbor, what the view preservation issues are, if any.
Okay. Yep. I think just also on the height piece for people, I don't know if you went and saw the house. The house is sort of set down in the road already. So relative to the heights of the stuff on the other side, it's already lower by about a story based on the grades.
Well,
it's sort of down in a hole to start with, but we'll do the preservations basically like we typically do to the east, view preservation.
The house
stuff
to the east,
of the house.
Hmm.
Right, and
A rendering would be nice.
Okay.
And there's wetlands and water course permits. I'm sure you know that.
Yeah, we have Beth Evans going to put together, as soon as we know if there's any changes to the rain garden, then Beth Evans will put together the wetlands application.
And you have access to the backyard? I mean, it looks pretty tight to the property line.
Yeah, well, we're hoping that there's no excavation associated with this, right? We're just building on top of the existing footprint, but there is access at the end of the driveway to the rear yard. So that's how we would do it. Driveway.
Any comment from the board? Dan?
No, Caesar.
George? Hello, George.
He's muted. George, you're muted. Oh, there you
I
go.
don't think I can comment. It's too close to my house.
Okay. How about Kevin?
No comments.
Mary Ann?
No.
Sarah, are there any public out there?
No one is raising their hand. And there's
Okay.
nothing in the chat.
John, you're pretty clear on what we want, and you can identify it clearly when you resubmit.
Yep, we will.
Okay, thank you, John.
All right, I'll
Don't
talk to you
forget-
guys.
Don't forget to sign out.
All right, thank you.
Next and last is 2020-18. Barth, 11 Beechwood Drive.
Hello. Hi,
Hello.
this is Stephen. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Stephen Bassini, architect for the Barths. I apologize my presentation surroundings, but we got hit by the storm up in Cortland and no power, no Wi-Fi, no cellular service. So I'm on a
You
mobile
look
office
like you're in
right
a,
now.
you look like you're in a car.
There you go. I'm a mobile office right now. Whatever
All
we
right,
can
go
do to
ahead.
make the client. So thank you. I noticed that some people were sharing screens. I believe I can probably do that here on my phone. But if you have the plans, should I just discuss it? If you all have the plans visible?
Well, we don't, but go ahead and discuss it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I would like to try and share it then because I have that. I believe I have the ability to do that. Well, it's not working right now. So why is it not working? I apologize. Let me see. Screen. Well, it's not. Since it doesn't seem to be working right now, so I'll start talking.
The work is pretty straightforward, and we can visualize what you're doing from past. So go ahead and speak.
So I'll start talking. Thank you. I appreciate it. So the proposal is to construct a 401 square foot addition on the front of the house for purposes that I'll explain. But essentially, it is the existing plan. If you see on the second sheet of the drawings, there's an existing plan and proposed plan. Currently, you enter the back of the garage, a two-car garage, from the east into the house, directly into the dining room. There is no foyer, mudroom, nothing breaking up those two spaces. So you know, as with most people with COVID, when you're quarantining, it sort of exacerbates the flaws in your house design. And so this is something that they discussed a while back when I originally met them. As something I wanted to do in the future, and now it's really becoming an issue with kids in the house and just entering in and out of the dining room into the garage. So there is no bathroom currently on the ground floor. It's a split level. And what we're proposing to do is to put an addition on the front of the house to remedy the entrance into the dining room by putting it more into the family room area and having a break, being able to provide a foyer, mudroom, bathroom, sort of a closet with a little cubby niche area before entering into the living room. We looked at several options. I mean, the other option was to go out to the east and put another garage and then incorporate the garage into the living space. It was just a little bit too extravagant. It was taking over the site. It was too much space, too voluminous. So what we've opted to do in this case is just to put it right into that little existing niche that's in the space on the southeast part of the house. We'd be coming out no further than the existing two-story structure with this one-story addition. There's a setback issue with the front of the house that was granted a variance years ago, but we are still actually setting the house back within the building envelope. So there is no area variance as far as setbacks are concerned, but obviously we are already over the coverage, maximum building coverage on the property, and we are exceeding that by adding this square footage. So we would need a variance. We did pay attention to volume again and bulk. I understand that's a concern in the village and appearance on any street in the village. So you know, there was discussion of how to do the roof on this, and there was discussion of a gable and what we could do to make it interesting. But in reality, I think the best way to make this thing as mild as possible is to really just pull out the front wall as we did, raise the existing low slope peak that is on that one-story portion there, and then just extend it out. So in reality, the addition came out about 8 feet, but the roof peak only goes up about 36 inches in order to achieve this. So, you know, the walkway would be shifting, and but the front of the house would essentially be looking the same, just upgraded, taking out that antiquated bay window, the bow window, and putting on some new siding around the house, and and doing it a little nicer with some landscaping. So I believe this, we've tried to mitigate as much as possible to try to also achieve what the owner desires and needs for the house. I did receive today comments from Han, and I believe that all of those items I can address with them through email and phone calls. I know that there's a desire that the village has to look at neighboring properties and the bulk and the size of them compared to this, and I definitely would provide that. I know I was going to provide that at the zoning board level, but I realize it's something the planning board wants to see as well. There was a question I wasn't sure about trees on the property that were protected, but I think it's also something I can discuss with Doug and Bill or George. But no trees would be affected by this application anyway. But if there are any on the site that are identified, then of course we'll label them and protect if need be. There was another question also about the drainage system, the existing drainage system. I'm not sure how to exactly detail what is existing on an existing house, but I think it's something I can discuss as well. Maybe just existing leader locations and where they may go or may not go. Is that true, Bill?
Yeah, that works. Just give us a sense of what you know about the existing drainage system. If there's
How many square feet are you adding?
401 square feet of living area and
399? No, okay, we have regulations based on the square footage that you're adding of coverage. Take a look at them. For drainage.
You have regulations for what? For drainage.
For
I do have
drainage.
drainage covered for it. I have the
Okay.
drainage covered for that square footage, but
All right.
is it something you're saying to discuss with Han's office?
Yeah, it just makes, we just don't want to exasperate the proposed system with the old. I was with the old system.
Well, I'm actually covering the existing by putting new chambers in.
All right.
They're on the plan, so I wouldn't be exaggerating anything, but I definitely would discuss that. Yes.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think all the items I saw on there we can address. Are there
Okay,
any questions?
Well, you seem to know you have a coverage issue. The front yard setback, I wasn't sure of that. Ed, does he have a front yard setback?
He's right on you're right on the line. If you can, the survey wasn't clear if the house was parallel with the property line. It just had one number on it. If you look at the survey that was submitted. So what we don't want to do is when the as-built comes in, we don't want them to be over. So if we can somehow secure the contractor doesn't go over by a half inch and become a problem later on.
So we recognize that we have to have an as-built survey when this is done, especially because it's zoning.
Yeah, I'm just afraid that.
Yeah. No, but Ed, to your point, exactly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to consult with the owner and suggest that we get that surveyor on board now, get a price from him, and also have him come out and flag and stake that front property line so we know exactly where to build it.
My suggestion was actually a little cheaper. Just require the corners to be set before they start the foundation.
Well, that's it. I want to set the corners. Yes, but
Yeah,
I agree.
This way,
thank you.
this way, that's not the problem. I don't want to get an as-built survey now. That's a waste of money.
No, not an as-built. So I want to just hire him, get him on board, and actually flag those corners. That's what I want.
Yeah, if you just put the note on the site plan, I'm good.
You got it.
I'm trying to make it as easy as possible.
Thank you.
And lastly, when you bump out the front, you're going to take out all the shrubbery that's there. So we'd like to see a new landscape plan for the front of the house.
I saw that on Han's comments, and yes, I will supply that for you.
Now, in terms of trees, I mean, I drove up there and it's the only property without any trees in the front. Would they consider planting a tree?
Well, there's
Just a
trees
thought,
along
not
the
a
back of the.
requirement.
I don't know. I mean, their
Just
big thing
a
really is
thought.
trying to get light. Their big thing is trying to get light into that family room there. But you know, I don't
It's
know.
just a thought.
I can talk to them about it. Okay, understood. I'll talk to them about it. We have to discuss the landscaping, so it's something to consider.
Yeah, the front of the house is going to be nude after you build, when you bump out, so it needs to be reestablished.
Yes.
Dan,
No comments, Caesar.
George,
Yeah, I think the only thing we really need is the standard stuff of understanding the bulk in comparison to the other neighbors, just like he said he was going to supply.
Good.
So you can't comment till you see that.
yeah. All right, and Kevin,
No, I think there's a long list of things to just provide comments on next time around. So I don't have anything to add to that.
Okay, and Mary Ann?
No.
Okay, I think we are done with this project. We'll see you next time, and please be clear when you address the comments
Yes.
of where they might be. When you have the
I understood.
cover letter.
I heard from previous comments. I will take care of that. Can I also ask that I also heard someone mention earlier that the September 22nd, I think Mr. Myron was saying, if I do get the plans in by within the 2 weeks, and you can review it by the September meeting, would I be able to still get on the agenda for the September 22nd ZBA?
It's possible if the board, if you
Pending the
supply enough
board's,
information to the
referral.
board, yeah, that's the first opportunity anyway, so it works.
So the timing works. That's what I was curious. I
Yeah, the
understand. I need
timing
your
works
referral.
as
Okay.
long as you provide the submission that's adequate for them to feel.
Understood. Okay.
But
And
yeah,
they're fairly straightforward. You should.
and
be
there's
able
no
to-
other opportunity to go until then anyway, so,
That's what I figured, but I just want to make sure I had the timing right. Okay. Thank you.
yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. From your car
Thanks very
or
much.
whatever,
Have a good night.
whatever mobile command post you're in. All right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Before I close the meeting, I'd like to comment that it's 10 o'clock and the record should show that this was a marathon meeting of 3 hours. I want to thank everybody for enduring this, especially Sarah, who has to push all the levers and make sure everybody is speaking or not speaking. Thank you very much. And if Sheila or Ty were here, I would wish her well. She served the village well at the planning board, and I believe she was a trustee and was a figure of support down at the senior center. Not sure if she's listening, but if she is, I wish you well, and the village will miss you. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a nice evening. It's
Just-
10
just
o'clock.
Quickly,
Anybody
Caesar,
have it? Go ahead.
Will, have you guys sent around your final memos? Because I didn't get them.
Mary Ann, we had a terrible time getting them out. Their office is out of power and internet. We
Okay,
tried
no, I'm
doing it.
not complaining. I just want to, will we get them? I need, since I have to write the resolutions, I need them.
Yeah, no, it was not a good,
I'm not
resolution.
criticizing. I just want to make sure we get them after the meeting.
I'm just explaining to you what happened.
Okay.
All right, I move to close the meeting. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Be safe.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye now. Thank you.